Putting Volume 5 into the VCR was really exciting. After the amazing events that had transpired toward the ends of the previous volume, with Rick saving Lisa just in time, only to have to let her go. And MIRIYA finally finding the Micronian pilot whom she'd felt humiliated her, only for him to humiliate her again. And poor Max. He simply had no idea what he was getting into. Max was no stranger to being around pretty girls, from the lovely ladies of the bridge, to even being friends with the glamorous Minmei, whom everyone seemed to find ridiculously good-looking, and he couldn't deny it. Max understood what Rick saw in Minmei for sure, not to mention Lisa Hayes. But he was such a level-headed guy, getting caught up in romance and love play was the last thing he needed if he wanted to keep his edge in battle. There'd be time for stuff like that later in life. Then he saw her, a woman with a look like a lioness on the prowl. Of all the thousands of women aboard the SDF-1, none had made his heart skip a beat like this mysterious girl with the green hair. He swore to himself it was more than just her looks. There was something about her, some connection he felt. But what are you gonna do, right? It's probably nothing, and for all he knew, she probably already had a boyfriend or something anyway. Why bother? That's what he told himself, until he saw her in the arcade. And not only did she apparently enjoy the pastime, she was really good. He was convinced. He'd learned to trust his instincts piloting. Maybe he shouldn't dismiss his instincts when it came to girls. After all, if he asked her out, the worst she could do was say no. It's not like she'd try to kill him or something. He was absolutely captivated by her. Sure, she was beautiful, but also the way she talked, the skills she had playing Batroid Attack. It was like he'd found the perfect woman. She seemed pretty upset at losing their match, though. But he just had to make sure he could see her again before she ran off. And he was so happy she agreed to meet him later. He was also so nervous, asking Rick about his outfits, keeping the tie, but apparently Rick had talked him out of the gold chain he'd considered. Rick had also told him the best place to take a girl was the fountain in the park. Maybe they could get their picture taken. Max had been waiting patiently, eager to make up to her that she'd lost their match and show her a good time, but she had yet to show up, and he started getting concerned.
Geez, it's getting late. I hope she's all right. I can't believe I asked her to meet me here in the park. A girl at night. She could get mugged or something.
Maximilian, prepare for your doom!
MIRIYA, there you are. It's nice to see you could make it. Huh? Ah! Hey, are you crazy?
I am Quadrano leader MIRIYA Perina, Zentradi Air Force.
So far, this date was not going the way Max had hoped. He was alarmed and more than a little confused. But even as she expressed the shame she felt, she, the Zentradi's greatest pilot, how she'd been beaten by him, now time and time again. And how now she must kill him to absolve that shame. He was still hesitant to fight back. She came at him, and he agilely dodged the strike, but was desperate to know why this girl, this Zentradi girl, would go through all this trouble to murder him directly. Maybe that was even part of the connection he'd felt when he saw her? MIRIYA couldn't stand this man, this Micronian. The things he stirred inside her, the emotions that boiled up at the thought of him. She knew she had to rid herself of all of it, of the humiliation he brought her, the weakness he made her feel in so many ways. Max was fast on his feet, but still caught off guard by the whole situation. He tripped and fell backwards, and MIRIYA seized her moment.
Gotta get that knife!
It's no use. You're no match for me. You may be a great man, but what is a man compared to a Zentradi?
And now we shall see!
Max was good in a fight, whether it was in the pilot's seat of a VOLTech, hand-to-hand in a barroom brawl, and, as it turns out, he wasn't too shabby with a knife either. Disarming MIRIYA of her blade, he took some small satisfaction that, according to her, he'd defeated her once more. As he held the knife to her, the tables turned. MIRIYA didn't even continue to put up a fight in any way. Sinking to her knees, she can't bear the fact that she'd lost again. She no longer wanted to feel this burden of shame. Even as silent tears begin streaming down her face, she begs Max to end her life. Max was shocked at this request, his heart empathetically tortured, feeling her pain with her. However, he was sure the feeling she felt, the connection between the two of them, went beyond any rivalry as warriors. Max decided to trust his instincts fully, that there was some greater bond he shared with MIRIYA. As he gently raised her head, she looked into his eyes, and that bond was understood by both of them in that moment. MIRIYA had never felt anything like it before. It was like they were both floating along. Gravity, space, time, revenge. None of it had any meaning, as her shame and despair were replaced by something new and wonderful. Max embraced her with care, with desire, with his heart given to her as we see him kiss her, reflected in the same knife she tried to plunge into his heart. She would have taken it, but now he gave it to her willingly, and knew he wanted to do so forever.
This is gonna sound crazy, but will you marry me?
Mary. What's Mary?
It's something no words can describe. MIRIYA, it's love, and that's the most beautiful thing there is.
Maximilian Sterling was the greatest ace of the human race. He had now completely defeated MIRIYA Perino, hailed as the Zentradi's greatest warrior in battle. He hadn't defeated her with mecha or missiles, or even knives, really. Instead, he had won with love. As sudden as all of this was, it was complicated further by the fact that MIRIYA was an enemy pilot, and one who had certainly racked up many names on the casualty roster. Max knew that if MIRIYA was to be accepted by his fellow officers, he'd have to start with the one man who would certainly understand the complications brought about by being in love. The hustle and bustle of the crew's main cafeteria included Sammy, Vanessa, and Kim hosting Rico, Conda, and Braun for breakfast. They were not only the ambassadors of the Zentradi defectors, it seemed they had become good friends with the girls from the bridge ever since that disco excursion. But their spirits were currently low, as they were losing hope that the Earth had any place for them, their appeals for settlement so far unanswered. Conda worries they'll all be stranded in space forever. Sammy and Kim offer words of encouragement, as another passerby summons up the courage he needs for a very different discussion, one that wouldn't be easy. Rick was enjoying some coffee when Max somewhat formally asks if he can join him. Rick could tell Max had been up all night, and found himself curious how Max's date had gone.
Excuse me, Lieutenant. I've been looking for you. Mind if I sit down?
Of course not, Max. Just tell me, what's on your mind?
Well, it's about last night. I think I'm going to get married.
You're gonna what?
Marry. I guess.
Why, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You only went on one date. Don't you think you should get to know each other?
Wait a minute, you don't understand. She's, well, we're in love.
Max knew how it sounded, but he couldn't describe exactly what he meant. And even as he said it, he knew that it was probably the weakest reasoning he could have given to Rick Hunter, of all people.
Listen here, Max. If you take my advice, you'll think about this and give it some time, okay?
It's not the time that bothers me, Lieutenant. It's,
What is
I'm
it?
not sure how to say this, but she's the enemy. She's confessed that she's a Zentradi.
What? Zentradi? How could you let this happen? I can't believe you could have made such a gigantic mistake.
Max knew this conversation wouldn't go smoothly, but he was sweating at how poorly he was handling it. Not to mention Rick's full-throttle rebuttal at the prospect of Max marrying this girl. But what really upset Max is when Rick said this was a gigantic mistake. If there was one thing Max was sure of, this was no mistake.
I love her.
Max, you're talking nonsense. You have absolutely nothing in common.
I am telling you that I love her, and there is no problem that love cannot overcome.
There is one problem, and that's your silly idealism. Love isn't gonna make you happy, believe me.
No one can blame Rick for being so cynical on the matter of love, but he was being a little harsh. Yet, no matter how much sense he was trying to talk into his buddy, Max had never been so sure of any decision in his life, whether Rick saw that or not.
It doesn't matter what you say. I am going to marry this girl with or without your approval.
Max, be sensible. Listen to reason. Okay, you're attracted to this girl. How many times has that happened to a guy?
That's what I am trying to say. She's not just any girl. She's special.
I can tell you like her a lot.
I'd like you to meet her.
Oh?
I brought her along.
Here? This should be interesting.
Oh, hi.
Huh?
We were just talking about you.
You were right, Max. Gosh, she is beautiful. I understand what you mean.
I'm so pleased to meet you. You're just the way Max described you.
Rick had seen her just the day before, from a distance, as she was hunched over the arcade. But he was rather taken with MIRIYA, actually meeting her up close. I don't know if he was picturing some Zentradi monster or what, but he turns into a bit of a buffoon as she smiles warmly at him. All cute in her coquettish dress, filling the cafeteria with charm. I'd like to think that it was more than good looks that set Rick off into such a vaudevillian bit. It seems to me that MIRIYA simply has this amazing new warmth and glow to her, especially in the presence of Max. The kind of palpable electricity in the room that only new and true love can generate. It's almost like Rick can feel what Max was trying to express before, and now that he does, he immediately changes his tune, becoming the supportive best friend Max had hoped to find this morning.
Perhaps I was wrong about this. I can't tell you what a lucky man you are to have found someone like her, and forget all of that nonsense I said.
Huh?
In fact, to guarantee you have a great wedding day, I plan to be there to help you kiss the bride.
There must have been some more hurdles to overcome as this wedding was announced, but there was just something so exciting about the very prospect of a human and a Zentradi getting married. Preparations were made quickly, and the entire ship joined in on the celebration as this union was to be made between these two peoples, two cultures, two races who were currently at war. From the Prometheus of Valhallan Rainbow Bridge extended out into space, a beam of light rolled out like a red carpet lined on either side by dozens of VOL.05 fighters. An honor guard to welcome the happy couple as they approached the ship together in Max's fighter, both of them dressed appropriately for their impending nuptials. It was more than Max could have ever hoped for, more than MIRIYA even knew possible. And for each of them it was, very simply, the happiest day of their lives. The broadcast of the ceremony did not go unnoticed by the Zentradi, as Britai and Exodor take in the event.
This is a strange Micronian custom, Exodor. May I ask what MIRIYA Farina is doing?
Your Excellency, if I am not mistaken, she is getting married.
Married? What do you mean by getting married, Exodore?
According to my research, it is a condition in which male and female live together.
Live together? Miriam Marina is going to live together with this Micronian male?
Correct, my lord.
It seems she's taking her job very seriously. Perhaps more seriously than she should. Unless my senses deceive me, it would seem she was enjoying herself in the most peculiar way. I wonder, Exodore, could it be that she too has found the Micronian way of life too enjoyable to resist?
It would appear, sir, that she can't resist the charm of that Micronian ace pilot. The danger of contact with the Micronians is evident. Our soldiers may be in more jeopardy than we believed.
It appears that this love business is a very powerful thing.
I'm afraid I agree with you, sir. It does have its attraction. It's an emotional factor against which we Zentradi have no defense. So this love could be used as a powerful weapon against us.
Weapon,
We
eh?
must beware.
Exodore and Britai were finally beginning to understand the true power of the people of Earth. Their assumption that it was a destructive force to overpower their foes had been misguided. Yet Britai began to realize this weapon they employ was far smaller and simpler, and had now, curiously, beaten the Zentradi's best warrior in MIRIYA. The wedding cake shaped like the STF-1 was a nice touch as Rick watched his friend Max cut it together with his bride. Rick hadn't bothered to bring a +1 flying solo on this mission himself, but he couldn't help but think of Ben at this time, knowing their missing third member of Vermilion Squad would have been ecstatic for his fellow wingman on this day. After the ceremony itself, the happy couple and their guests had settled in as the MC introduced the guest of honor presiding over these festivities.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is a very special day. It's more than just a wedding celebration. It's a bonding of two souls dedicated to the protection of our Robotech colony. I would like now to introduce the man who consented to this special occasion, the guest of honor, Captain Henry J. Gloval.
Well, to begin with, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Max and MIRIYA, for this wedding carries with it a great historical significance. As you all know, MIRIYA was a Zentradi warrior who destroyed many of our own ships. She comes from a culture that we have grown to fear and hate.
Oh no!
Clearly, it is the Zentradi who have caused our present situation. They alone prevent our return to Earth, our homes, and our beloved families. It is they who have caused injury, destruction, and endless suffering.
Captain, please.
It was a quiet plea from Max, one that Rick echoed. This wasn't like Captain Gloval at all. Where was he going with this? How could he possibly ruin this auspicious occasion with such hateful rhetoric? However, the captain was simply making a point, showing that it was easy to remain spiteful and bigoted towards an enemy and harbor perpetual ill will towards them. But there was a higher road, a better way, one that Captain Gloval taught me and so many of us who have watched this saga by giving one of the greatest speeches of all time.
Now, I know what you are thinking. Why is he choosing this time to remind us of these terrible things? I remind you of these brutal acts, ladies and gentlemen, because we must learn to forgive our enemies. We do not forgive blindly or out of ignorance, but because we are a strong and willing nation. We cannot blame the Zentradi for this inexplicable lust for war. They have never known another way of life, and it is their only means of survival. Nor can we condemn the individuals of that society for the mass insanity of their war machine. Instead, we must look to their good nature. Now, some have made the request to stop the fighting, and I believe it is a genuine request. We must respond with equal integrity. The blood of both these young people was tested before the ceremony. Zentradi blood was found to be exactly the same as human blood. There is no reason why we cannot coexist in peace, so let this occasion represent a future where all people live in harmony. Please allow me to speak just a moment longer.
What a leader of men for peace!
Captain Gloval is a man of peace, there's no doubt. Who wants peace?
It's easy to be like this fella by the fountain, someone who has surely lost loved ones in this conflict between the SDF-1 and the Zentradi. But Captain Gloval was correct. We must learn to forgive our enemies, not blindly or out of ignorance, but because we are a strong and willing nation. After all, We are all the same, deep down, much like how the humans and the Zentradi are genetically, essentially identical. If two people from very different places, backgrounds, and cultures can come together in harmony, the way Max and MIRIYA have, the way the Zentradi defectors did, then surely we can all set aside our differences and find a way to live in harmony. Even as the people of the SDF-1 and Macross City cheered as the captain spoke, he continued, sympathizing with folks like the man by the fountain, while also challenging them to overcome their harbored feelings of ill will. This sentiment was not shared by Lisa's father, who watched the ceremonies along with Lisa in his quarters, and seemed rather stressed out, smoking what was clearly not his first cigarette of the day.
I am sure there are those who have lost loved ones during the war and cannot help harboring ill feelings for the Zentradi. But somehow we must overcome these feelings. We must stop this senseless destruction.
He's crazy. I can't understand Global talking about peace at a time like this.
Father, it's the only way to avoid our own destruction. If we don't start talking peace, it will mean the end of the world, and not even you would want that.
Lisa!
I'm sorry, Father, but you must stop the Grand Cannon operation immediately.
It's too late to do anything about that now.
Each and every citizen must develop a responsible attitude toward the prospect of peace. We must learn from our mistakes to live with different people, different nations. Think of the challenge. I am not proposing laying down our arms, but extending them in friendship, so that if there is a chance of a peaceful solution, we can find it together, as these young people have done. The Zentradi are a strong and intelligent people. Therefore, let this act here today stand as a symbol of our approval. We must follow their example. They are the heroes of today.
May they have a long and prosperous marriage.
Hooray for Zentradi, our friend!
Hail Captain Global!
Peace between our people!
Long live the captain!
Long live the Zentradi!
Long live peace!
Think of it. Maybe there's some hope at last for our two races. What a wonderful thing this is to celebrate. Peace throughout the entire universe.
While Captain Henry Global hailed Max and MIRIYA as heroes in their union, representative of the peace that was possible, the supreme commander of all the Zentradi forces, Lord Dolza, had seen the danger posed by the Micronians, had heard the risk of further infection and defection of his own people weighed against the worth of capturing the battle fortress. It was now his determination that the costs had been too high. The threat of the Micronian culture unraveling the Zentradi zone was too great. And the only solution now was to order the annihilation of the battle fortress and all the peoples of Earth. Back on the unsuspecting SDF-1, the festivities continued as special guest Lin Minmei was introduced to an excited applause of Max, MIRIYA, and all present guests, with one notable exception. Minmei offered her heartfelt congratulations to Max and MIRIYA as she introduced her song of choice, and there's no way she didn't notice Rick in the crowd. They still hadn't spoken in a very long time, as she was not only busy, but still somewhat torn when it came to him. And he was just hurt by what he felt was her rejection, and that she'd seemingly chosen Kyle over him. Minmei was a professional, though, and her own inner turmoil remained hidden as she performed for the wedding couple and their guests. Her song and voice were as touching as ever, and stirred Rick's heart as his thoughts turned to the people he missed most, which certainly included Lisa. Her voice even carried over to Britai's ship, impressing further upon him the secret power of the Micronians and these feelings they stirred.
Okay, folks, the beautiful Minmei will now sing a song dedicated especially to the wedding couple.
This woman has a voice that can make a man feel sorrow.
Commander Britai, forgive the interruption. I bring you orders of utmost security from the Commander-in-Chief of all Zentradi forces, Dolza.
Hail Dolza!
You are ordered to begin a full-scale assault on the enemy battle forces. There are to be no survivors, whatever the cost. That is all.
Well, Your Excellency?
It grieves me that the time has finally come. I do not look forward to this task at all. It may sound strange, but it's true.
Ritai had suspected this was inevitable the longer this campaign had gone on. Perhaps they should have destroyed the battle fortress and the Micronians upon their first encounter and saved themselves all of this trouble, if this was to be the end. Yet the order was given, and Ritai issued it forth. This didn't necessarily mean it would be obeyed, though.
I don't want to fight. Move it! I feel as though I were going to be fighting against my own people.
What? Do you realize what the penalty is for disobeying Imperial orders?
He's right. We will have to fight.
Let's move.
Lord Ritai demands that you prepare to attack.
So beautiful, yet so small.
Zentradi, you are in direct violation of Imperial orders. You are to report to your battle stations immediately.
What did you say?
What? Don't be foolish. This has gone too far.
It doesn't matter what you say. We have decided we aren't fighting anymore. We have friends on that ship, and that's where we draw the line. Now leave.
Look at him run like a troll, with his tail between his ears.
Enough Zentradi soldiers had mobilized to form a formidable host against the battle fortress, causing alarms to blare in the middle of the wedding reception. All soldiers scrambled for battle, while the civilians headed for shelters. The commander of Max's air wing excused him from battle, but even on his wedding day, Max could not in good conscience allow his fellow soldiers to fight without him. He apologized to MIRIYA, who understood better than Max would have suspected. She understood so well that she insisted on going with him.
I won't let my comrades down when they need me most.
Max, I'll go with you.
Huh?
I can fly these Robotech planes as well as any of your pilots.
No.
I have promised that I would stay by your side, and I will. From now on, we fight together.
Well, if you're that determined, then I have no choice but to let you, even though it may be dangerous.
Yes.
We'll have to hurry. So much for the honeymoon.
Rick led the Veritech fighters in Skull 1 to defend the ship from the incoming horde, while Captain Gloval watched these brave men and women fly out, praying for their safety. Max joined the other fighters with MIRIYA riding behind him in the cockpit, having mixed feelings about going into battle against her fellow Zentradi. As the battle began, the many battle pods attacked as fiercely as ever. Rick and the others attempted to thin out their numbers, but this wasn't just a skirmish. The Zentradi were out for total destruction this time. Max lined up a target, but MIRIYA makes him wait until he lines up his sights with a specific section of the enemy battle pod. He fires and clearly disabled the pod, but confirms with MIRIYA if that was her intent. She expresses her desire not to see more Zentradi killed, and although Max worries what his superiors will say, he accedes to MIRIYA's wishes. As he disables more and more battle pods, leaving them helpless in space, Rick confronts Max, who apologizes, and yet Rick completely understands. He even joins Max in his effort to leave the Zentradi pilots alive as they cripple their mecha. Ritai and Exodor analyze the battle and see what the Micronian fighters are doing. That, mixed with the borderline treason of many of their own soldiers refusing to fight, and Ritai's own stirrings he'd felt from hearing the voice of that female Micronian siren. He couldn't help but feel like this was all wrong. This was not the way. These Micronians had proven themselves to be true warriors in the face of unwinnable odds. How could Ritai not respect such valor? There was more to discover yet, more to that battle fortress and the people aboard than merely the secrets of Zor. Ritai ordered that all forces be recalled, even as he's reminded by Exodor that such an order is in direct disobedience of High Command. Ritai is aware of that, and although he had not yet determined which path he would follow, he knew one thing. The Micronians would not be destroyed this day.
Captain, would you look at that? It's a miracle. All the enemy divisions appear to be turning back and leaving, sir.
Yes, we're very lucky. I wonder if their retreat had something to do with the wedding.
Attention all VOL.05 squadrons. The enemy has broken off its attack and is now retreating. All defense forces are ordered to regroup and return to ship immediately.
Max! What's happening? It's on fire!
What? No, honey, get out of the way. I'll try and put it out. Stand back. It's okay. Look, just stand back. I'll take it.
Am I going crazy or is this just a bad dream? Ugh.
Miriyya, you're just gonna have to try and be a little more careful.
But I used only a little dash of liquid that I got out of this bottle. I'm sorry. Oh.
It says oil here, Miriyya. Oil catches fire.
It says for cooking.
You cooked the coffee pot.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, mornings are really gonna be rough around here without any coffee. Oh, boy. Well, I guess we'll live through it.
Even though he was a little vexed at the noise of his neighbors, Rick couldn't help but be happy for Max, even envious in a way. Sure was strange how things turn out. Who would have known Max would marry that girl from the arcade, and she'd turn out to be an alien? His own love life, at least, was far more straightforward, albeit less successful. It had been strange to lock eyes with Minmei that day, her expression unreadable to him, reaffirming the callousness he'd built around his heart concerning her. Unavoidably, his heart, his thoughts, once again returned to Lisa on the earth, knowing he rather liked her. Maybe even... He drifted off to sleep, lost in the thought. Peace had settled over the ship after a rather momentous day aboard. It had been a great day of celebration, yet none of the people aboard truly understood how close they had come to utter annihilation, and how a single decision of the enemy commander caused them to narrowly avoid it. Max Sterling and MIRIYA Perina, once the foremost and fiercest aces of their respective armed forces, now joined together in matrimony, an event celebrated by the entire SDF-1 and its inhabitants. Its importance solemnized by Captain Henry J. Global as an example of the possibility of bringing together both the people of Earth and the Zentradi, who hover like a pendulum over the human race, a pendulum controlled by the commander of their fleet, Britai. Britai could hardly believe his eyes, seeing the renowned MIRIYA, now tamed by such a timid-looking Micronian. A Micronian Britai couldn't have known had also bested himself once. Yet Britai saw that look of joy on the Quadrano leader's face, had heard the words of the Micronian commander and his talk of extending the arm of friendship. He had been touched by the sounds of their female enchantress, who had beguiled much of Britai's own fighting force already. It had all caused Britai to look internally at his own emotions stirred by these events, ignited by these brave warriors found among the Micronian people. Ever since the wedding, the SDF-1 had been tracking enemy movement, seeing some curious repositioning of their fleet. As such, the ship was currently in battle mode, seeing one of the Zentradi capital ships slowly maneuvering closer. Vanessa warned the captain of its approach, and Global immediately orders the main gun aimed directly at it. Sammy and Kim tease each other about whatever the enemy's intentions are here, with Sammy throwing out her wild theories, much to Kim's dismay. But Vanessa interrupts, alerting them all of an incoming message broadcast from the enemy's ship, formally requesting a cessation of hostilities and permission to approach closer. Global offered the enemy vessel no answer, with either a verbal response or by firing the main gun. Thus, the ship moved in. It was an intimidating moment for Global and his crew, to be sure. Of course, they'd love to believe in this possibility. Yet this main capital ship of the Zentradi was nearly 10 times the size of the SDF-1. And although her main gun was immensely powerful, in a head-to-head fight against Britai's ship, it would be an even chance at best if the mighty battle fortress could survive such an encounter. It had already punched it once with the Daedalus, which clearly hadn't caused it any issues. There was nothing left to do but wait as it encroached. As it moved in, a contingent of Zentradi tri-thruster fighters flew past the oncoming vessel, a move Vanessa, Global, and the rest found curious. Even more curious was the Zentradi command ship firing on these fighters, obliterating the lot of them. While Britai watched their destruction at his orders, Chiron called in, questioning Britai's motives in eradicating the squadron he'd sent to try and catch the Micronian battle fortress by surprise. Britai informs the backstabber that he cannot allow him to interfere with this new diplomatic initiative.
Diplomacy? Ridiculous! Chiron refused to allow the Micronians peace, refused any initiative that did not end in their total annihilation.
Britai decided to ignore Chiron's blustering for now. He could handle him later. Closer and closer, this 9-mile behemoth moved towards the SDF-1 until, at least in relative space terms, they were facing off practically nose to nose.
They're just sitting out there, Captain. I guess they're waiting for us to make a move.
Perhaps they really do want peace. Why else would they attack and destroy their own fighters?
Rick, Max, and 2 other Veritechs are sent to intercept a single reconnaissance-style battle pod launched from the Zentradi ship. One of the pilots flying support voices to Rick how totally weird it feels to be escorting a battle pod to the SDF-1. Rick is inclined to agree. Once this small group is secured in a remote hangar, the 2 support fighters standing at alert on either side of the pod, ready for anything, watch as the hatch opens on the pod, and one lone Zentradi soldier emerges. Except it turns out, he's not alone after all.
Maintenance crews D through L report to flight deck C immediately.
Aren't you forgetting something?
Oh, please forgive me, Your Excellency. I'm sorry.
How do these Micronians survive with such frail little bodies? Rather an imposing sight, aren't we, eh?
Attention!
I am Colonel Maestroff of the United Earth Forces. I bring you greetings from our fleet commander, Captain Global.
Huh?
This is how we greet friends.
Oh. I am called Exodor among my people, Minister of Affairs.
It sounds rather important.
Not really.
I'll take you to the commander. Excuse me, Minister Exodore. Could you ask him to wait here on the flight deck?
Stay here and guard the pod.
Yes, sir.
You men look around and see if you can find him something to eat.
Yes, sir.
Find him something to eat? He's gotta be kidding. I bet all the food in this ship wouldn't even put a dent in his appetite.
Really? I'd sure hate to see the size of their grocery bills at the end of the month. Well, we might as well get started.
I always loved that bit as a kid. Colonel Maestroff took Exodore through the streets of Macross City, which seemed a friendly gesture of trust, and an experience Exodore found fascinating, seeing all the wonders that Rico, Conda, and Braun had reported on. But some of these wonders Exodore found rather unnerving.
That picture on the building over there. Would you mind explaining it to me?
Well, actually, it is a little hard to explain.
Aha! Most likely a military secret. Very clever. Indeed.
Yes, of course, a military secret.
Captain Gloval is informed of Maestroff's arrival to the ship's main conference room, along with the Zentradi emissary. He leaves with Claudia a standing order that if the enemy vessel, still uncomfortably close, takes any hostile action, she is to fire the main gun immediately. Gloval hoped the Zentradi's intentions were true, but no chances could be taken. Within the conference room, Exodore was given the high seat, both as a gesture of respect and a central place to not only be watched from all sides, but to hear whatever he had come to say. It was also rather nice of them to give him a uniform to wear, rather than the bit of cloth and twine he'd arrived in. I suspect Gloval sent Maestroff to welcome this emissary, to help him get over his own xenophobia, a necessary mandate if they were to achieve peace. Thankfully, Maestroff seemed to be going the extra mile in showing this emissary all due respect. After Gloval arrived, Exodore found it an honor to finally meet the cunning Micronian captain face to face, and says as much to Gloval, who responds gracefully. He's given some refreshments as they await some more dignitaries, and whatever exactly the drink was, he finds it delicious enough to accept as second helping. Gloval and Maestroff discuss whom else they were waiting for to begin, just as the most representative pair they could ask to have at such a meeting enter the room.
Sir, reporting as ordered.
Ah, hello, Quadrano leader.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize that you were the emissary.
I found your pairing ritual quite provocative.
Oh, you observed the wedding ceremony? Oh, you probably wondered why we did it.
Yes, just as you're probably wondering what I'm doing here.
Well, yes, I was, sir.
And this must be the male half of your pair.
That's right, sir.
Gee, you don't seem too thrilled about it. Reporting. Hey, Max, you don't look so good. Are you all right?
That's it.
Huh?
Exodore immediately recognized Rick Hunter from the time he'd interrogated him and two other Micronians. A most enlightening experience. And yet he'd always been very curious how they'd managed to escape, asking Rick as much. Rick looks over to Max, who had busted them out. But before they can even begin to go into the details of that whole adventure, another trio from that encounter enter the room.
It's Minister Exodore!
I did not expect to see the instigators of our mass defection show up.
Your Excellency, it wasn't our fault.
That's right. We didn't mean it, sir.
We had no control, sir.
You may relax. I have no intention of harming you.
Phew. Captain Gloval, the ship's computer will record the proceedings.
Very good. Let us begin. Now then, Minister Exodore. We are unclear as to the exact purpose of your mission here. We've been told very little so far. Won't you please enlighten us?
Your curiosity is understandable, but not everyone is present yet, Captain.
What?
We would like to know more about two of your kind, gentlemen. The first possesses powers that are truly extraordinary. And a female who's the core of your psychological assault.
Incredible.
I think he means that movie. They must have seen it and think Lin Kyle's powers are real.
There is clearly a misunderstanding here. And what does he mean, psychological assault? I can't think of anyone who would be at the core of a psychological assault. It would be helpful if you could be more specific about the female.
She appears to be performing some kind of ritual. A strange little chant.
Do you think he...
No, he couldn't.
Sure he could.
You know. Stage fright, go away. This is my big day. This is my...
So he is talking about Minmei.
You gotta admit, Exodore does a pretty stunning Minmei impression. Rick, Global, and all the others in the room are dumbfounded at this performance, not to mention befuddled that a pop music star could be such an important piece of these sensitive proceedings. Proceedings that certain self-righteous civilians could possibly spoil. This emissary had insisted on the presence of the stars of Little White Dragon, though, and Global relented, ordering their retrieval.
Have the girl brought here.
As Minmei entered, Exodore confirms she is the songstress he meant. She smiles sweetly at him and even notices Rick in the room, who smiles at the sight of her. That smile is quickly dashed by a very grumpy Lin Kyle, who follows Minmei inside.
That's her, yes.
I'm getting tired of being pushed around by the military.
Now, would somebody mind explaining why it was so important for us to come here?
Don't expect any answers from them, Minmei. They have no concern at all about what we want. That's the way it is, right?
Enough of this nonsense. You will answer our questions. What I am about to tell you is in the strictest confidence. We need total cooperation from both of you. Do you understand?
Yes. Try to be a little more cooperative with him. Your hostility serves no purpose, don't you see?
I love seeing Captain Global shutting down Kyle fast, as well as Minmei seemingly sick of Kyle's constant attitude and rhetoric. The dude definitely needs to chill. Now, with all parties and representatives present, Captain Global officially begins the proceedings, formally asking Minister Exodore why he has come to the SDF-1, lighting his pipe as these negotiations for a ceasefire begin. These proceedings were followed closely by Earth High Command, who received to-the-minute reports. One member of the High Command, Admiral Hayes, moved about on official business to a room full of communications officers, stopping at one duty station in particular. Asking his daughter Lisa how she likes her new position, she initially grumbles at it, knowing the assignment was given to her by him simply to keep her from going back to the battle fortress. They both knew it, but she remained civil with her father. She mentioned she'd heard about a ceasefire actually initiated by the Zentradi. She hoped this meant that her father would reconsider the use of the Grand Cannon against them. But he spouts his distrust of the aliens and their intentions, and excuses himself before she can make an argument of it. She watches him go, hoping he would ultimately do the right thing, while also severely missing her comrades aboard the SDF-1, wishing not only that she could be with them again, but be in that conference room there as this historic meeting takes place. Exodore insisted on Kyle telling him his military rank and the secret of his powers, which Kyle sneered at. Trying to keep things civil, Global attempted to explain about movies and visual effects, when Exodore pressed them all about the energy wave they'd used to wipe out many ships and one of their own cities. Global openly explains the accident of the barrier system in that encounter, and Exodore slowly begins to realize some of his assumptions have simply been misunderstandings, and that the Micronians do not, in fact, possess some secret knowledge and power, at least to a Zentradi's understandings of such things. Yet, he is sure that the female Micronians' songs, as they were called, must be derived of some kind of super ability. The captain, Max, and Rick all seem confused, Until Braun, Rico, and Konda reiterate that to them who have never heard music, especially Minmei's, it hits them like an incredible power deep down. The awe in their voices as they say this flatters Minmei, whom Exodore regards for a moment, before informing all those gathered that the Zentradi have long ago encountered a similar power. A society much like the Micronians of Earth. He explains that fighting, war, conquest, and military discipline are the backbone of Zentradi society. Those phenomena such as music, art, copulation, and love all detract from that discipline, that Zentradi culture. And it has, in the past, nearly brought the end of their own society. Thus they look at such things as an infection amongst their people. That being said, it seems that the Zentradi fleet under Commander Britai, which has pursued and observed the SDF-1 and its people, has now been infected by them to an egregious degree. A degree that Exodore and Britai are certain cannot be looked upon with even the slightest allowance by Supreme Commander Lord Dolza. It would only be a matter of time, by Exodore's estimation, that Dolza would now mobilize his entire main fleet against not only the SDF-1 and the Earth, but most probably Britai, Hazonia, Chiron, and all of their forces as well. Captain Gloval moves to confirm with Rick and Max that the fleet the emissary is referring to is the same massive flotilla they saw with Lieutenant Hayes, made up of millions of battleships. Rick confirms this as he begins filling with dread at the thought of such a force and the impossibility of defeating it. Britai sat in his command bubble awaiting word from Exodore. He is hailed by Commander Hazonia, who begs of him how long he intends to continue this diplomacy, and informs him she's already sent a report detailing the recent cessation of hostilities, MIRIYA Perina's union with the Micronian male, and so on. Britai is extremely alarmed at this, finding Hazonia's foolishness baffling. He tells her of the fact that she has now pushed their negotiation to a very speedy end. They would need the Micronians' help if they wish to survive. Not only would they now require the unlimited energy source of protoculture from within Zor's battle fortress, Britai knew for sure that Dolza himself would certainly come, and soon, to obliterate not only the Micronians and their ship, but also the entire Zentradi fleet that it had infected.
What is that? Are you certain of this? Yes, yes. You know what this means, then? I understand. You must prepare yourselves to escape this star system.
And leave the Earth defenseless?
Yes.
That is out of the question. We have sworn to defend our planet against any aggression.
Yes, I understand. We would not act any differently. And since escape for us would be difficult without your help, it seems that we shall soon be fighting a common enemy.
Huh? What's that?
Our flagship has just now informed me that the main fleet is headed for this star system.
Huh? The main fleet?
Yes. Consisting of more than 4,800,000 battle-ready warships, with the destructive force of a small nova.
All right, then. It looks as though we have an important decision to make. Whether or not the Earth can survive such an attack. Only time will tell.
We'll give it our best shot.
You're crazy! A fleet of almost 5 million? There's no way we can fight them off. We're finished.
MIRIYA, darling, I'm afraid this might be the end for us.
I don't care about that, my love. As long as I'm at your side in battle.
Together.
It's not over yet. There might still be a way.
Huh? Explain.
So far, this vessel of yours has proven itself indestructible. I'm not sure how, but there must be a way to win.
The news of this massive impending attack reached the Earth's Alaskan headquarters quickly, with every soldier and serviceman scrambled to emergency positions. Lisa drove through the vast caverns of the underground base, headed to the command core to make one final request of her father. Of all the people on the surface of the Earth, she alone had seen this incoming fleet with her own eyes and knew the chances of Earth surviving its attack were 0. She also knew whom she wished to face such a fate with, if given the choice. The command core was already detecting high energy levels deep in space, knowing it was the result of fold and defold activity. The place was abuzz with status updates, reports, and conversations as Lisa spied her father in the middle of one now.
It doesn't look so good.
Ah, Admiral.
Lisa, dear, I'll talk to you later. Well, what is it? Huh?
Father, what's going to happen to the ship?
It'll be destroyed. We want to use it to draw their fire away from the Earth and the rest of our forces. Sort of a decoy.
No, you can't!
I'm sorry, Lisa. There's no other choice.
Father, may I ask a personal favor?
What is it?
I want you to send me back to the battle fortress.
No, that's completely out of the question.
My place is with those whom I've fought alongside for so long. Don't you understand? Father, you've got to let me go back up.
You're serious about this?
Yes, believe me.
I'm sorry, but...
But you won't.
I can't permit it. I cannot allow my only daughter to sacrifice her life in a foolish attempt at heroism. Can't you understand that?
I am an officer.
Of course.
Then reassign me, please.
Listen to me. Even though I'm your father, I promise you, if you try to leave, I'll have you thrown in the brig.
What now, Zonia?
Well, there are very few options, and Doza will probably exterminate us now that we've been exposed to the micronium. I will stay and face the fleet. It will be a great honor to go with you into battle, Commander.
Commendable. May you win every fight.
And you too, Retai.
Chiron, your plan.
You know my answer. The odds are too great. My fighter can't win, Retai.
As I expected, Chiron, I wasn't depending on you anyway.
You would be destroyed! All right, let's go.
What coordinates?
Any place else in the universe but here. Didn't you hear me?
But, sir...
What is it?
We can't run.
You think not? Watch this.
Chiron wouldn't be missed. Retai regarded calling him in to help with the capture of the battle fortress as a rare misstep on his part, a costly mistake. The greatest battle of Retai's life was ahead of him, and he was prepared to face this challenge as a true Zentradi, whatever his own fate may be. Exodore was confident sheer numbers and brute strength would be all Dolza would implement, and really, with such a fleet, it's the only strategy he would need. However, there was the slightest, most remote chance that the greatest ally that the Earth and its new colleagues had was hubris. If Dolza assumed the Earth and its allies were too weak to mount any counterattack, perhaps there was an opportunity to attack Dolza's main massive command ship and scatter the fleet into disarray.
Of course. In short, we crushed the head of the snake.
With their attack forces in disarray, our only chance for survival is to utilize the combined forces of the SDF-1 and our battle fleet.
Do you realize what you're saying?
Since Dolza knows we have already been exposed to your culture, there is no option but to fight. What's this?
This is how we greet friends.
Oh.
I'm glad that we are fighting on the same side.
It was a historic handshake, a monumental moment as the people of the SDF-1 joined forces with the very Zentradi armada originally sent to antagonize and capture the battle fortress. Exodore then acknowledged Minmei, recognizing her and that this new alliance would never have been without her music and voice, which she found flattering and humbling. Kyle clearly hated all of this. Strange, since this meeting had just brought about the very peace Kyle claimed to champion. Exodore exclaimed to all present that he was finally beginning to understand the Micronians' true power, to use song and music to inspire hope and courage in the people of Earth, to give them the strength to stand against all odds. He then implored Minmei to sing for them at this time to inspire such strength as they prepared to face such odds. Minmei graciously accepted, her song bringing hope, comfort, and motivation to all those gathered, blowing Exodore away with her charm, even giving Gloval pause, and absolutely delighting Rico, Conda, and Braun with this live performance. Max and MIRIYA felt their own bond strengthened by Minmei's gift, and Rick soaked in the moment, overwhelmed by a flood of long-buried emotions for her. Kyle was perhaps the only one in the room unmoved by this song, as he saw this entire situation as not only coming from a controlling military, but he saw his own control and hold over Minmei slipping. The rest of the ship was just beginning preparations for this impending assault, as the radar room suddenly detected the inevitable, unfathomable energy release of countless battleships defolding above the Earth between it and the SDF-1. Even Vanessa's high-end instruments can't keep up with the number. Lisa and her father hear the warning sirens blare with the detection of immeasurable defold activity, along with the call to battle stations. More and more ships appear in Earth's space in swarms, numbering in the millions, surrounding the entire planet, positioning for attack. The bridge crew almost hate to interrupt the captain with this news, barely minutes after finally achieving this truce with Britai's people. But Claudia appears to inform Gloval and the rest of this sudden appearance of their new common enemy. All of them can hardly believe their eyes, can barely comprehend the amount of ships they found themselves up against, and the power Dolza wielded with this fleet. It was even visible in the night sky from the surface of the Earth. Rick had seen this fleet before, and even he stared in disbelief as the reality of their situation was sinking in. The fate of the entire human race and their planet Earth now depended on the SDF-1, its new Zentradi friends, and the small spark of hope they had that their combined forces stood any chance of beating back the grand fleet of Lord Dolza.
To a Zentradi, fighting is a way of life.
I want you to send me back to the battle fortress.
No, that's completely out of the question.
My place is with those whom I fought alongside for so long, don't you understand? Father, you've got to let me go back up.
Our flagship has just now informed me that the main fleet is headed for this star system.
Huh? The main fleet?
Yes, consisting of more than 4,800,000 battle-ready warships, with the destructive force of a small nova.
You're crazy! A fleet of almost 5 million? There's no way we can fight them off.
It's not over yet. There might still be a way.
Huh? Explain.
So far, this vessel of yours has proven itself indestructible. I'm not sure how, but there must be a way to win. Since Dolza knows we have already been exposed to your culture, there is no option but to fight.
I'm glad that we are fighting on the same side.
Hear my thoughts, Lord Dolza, and take a good look at me while you still can, for this is the final battle of Britai.
If all goes as planned, the enemy will be thrown into disarray and we will attack in full force. This may be the only chance we'll have.
Good luck.
Dolza's armada was still arriving. Waves of Zentradi battleships continually defolding above the Earth. As imposing as it was, the crew of the SDF-1 quickly and eagerly moved to defend the very planets that had exiled them into space. Max confirmed with his wife it was time to head out, and MIRIYA confirmed she was right behind him, ready for battle. There was a momentary sadness seen in Max's eyes as he felt irony's cruel twist deep within, at fate giving him this soulmate and not giving them much time together. Yet duty calls. Max turns to Rick, telling him, "See you around, boss." Rick telling him, "You can bet on it," before watching the two warriors who formed that happy couple run off together. Rick couldn't be happier for them, and suddenly found himself inspired by them. He looked over to Minmei, who was already giving him a concerned stare from across the room. Knowing Rick would now have to go fight, knowing she herself had influenced him to become a soldier to begin with. Well, what did he have to lose at this point? Knowing he may never get another chance to do this, he ran over to Minmei, despite Kyle's looming right next to her.
Yes, Rick?
I'm not very good at this sort of thing, but I might not see you again. I wanted to say that I love you.
Oh, Rick. Oh.
I just had to tell you. Farewell for now.
It was all very sudden, and in the middle of the world facing certain doom, what could she possibly say back in that moment? He didn't need her to say anything, and was glad he was finally able to express it to her. He felt he could now go and face his fate with a clear head and conscience, knowing that the woman who'd inspired him to be a fighter pilot knew why he fought. To protect her. But now, as he ran off to battle, she couldn't let him go without saying something.
Wait, Rick!
Don't try to stop him.
Please, I must!
Minmei!
For 2 years, the SDF-1 had attempted to outmaneuver both Britai's fleet and Azonia's. Now, she found herself encompassed by their combined forces, as every ship in their flotilla repositioned and reloaded every armament, preparing to assault the massive fleet of Dolza. Every destroid within the ship went to take up action stations on the outside, to add its firepower to the batteries of the battle fortress. On the bridge, Captain Gloval, with Exodore at his side, received status reports on the arming of their stockpile of reflex warheads to every unit and weapon system aboard. The reflex warheads were basically robotechnological nukes, capable of incredible destructive payload. An ace up the SDF-1's sleeve that Gloval had hoped he'd never have need to use. But the time had come, it seemed. Exodore wasn't surprised the Micronians had these reflex weapons in their back pockets, and had even postulated on the possibility of their possession upon seeing that the Earthlings had repurposed Zor's crashed ship. A possibility even Britai was wary of at the time.
We know they have
reflex weaponry.
Precisely, and this makes them very dangerous, so we must exercise caution.
As Exodore expressed both his intrigue and commendation at Gloval's restraint in using these powerful weapons, Gloval told him how ironic he found it that instead of using them on Britai's ships, he would be fighting side by side with them, using these weapons in their aid. At Alaska Base, all hands were deep in their own preparations for the defense of the planet, many of them working as quickly as possible to ready the best chance they had against this immense Zentradi fleet. the Grand Cannon. Yet this fleet appeared so indomitable, there were those who doubted even the Grand Cannon could make much difference.
Numbering in excess of 4 million. Grand Cannon ready to fire in T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
With a force that big, we can't hope to win. We couldn't do it even if we used the Grand Cannon.
Lieutenant, have we been able to establish radio contact with them?
We're trying, Admiral, but so far it's no go.
Well, there's nothing left to do but fight.
It's good to see that before pulling the Grand Cannon's trigger, Lisa's father did at least try to open a dialogue with the Zentradi and establish some kind of talks, ultimately taking the advice of his daughter. But it also ultimately seems to be too little, too late. Lisa herself was at her station, coordinating flight groups. As they radio back their confirmations of her commands, she can't help but take a moment to think of her friends aboard the SDF-1. Not the least of which was Rick Hunter. Rick ritualistically finished adorning his flight suit, focusing on the battle ahead, alone in the pilot's ready room, when he hears a knock at the door. Thinking it was just some subordinate coming to relay orders,
Rick?
he invites the visitor in, completely caught off guard to find that visitor is her. She didn't even know what to say. There was suddenly so much to say for both of them. And for what seemed like an eternity, they simply said nothing as they looked into each other's eyes. As the last of the Zentradi battle cruisers folded in, the capstone of their fleet, Dolza's colossal space fortress, materialized within the swarm. Itself an enormous hive, still harboring thousands more ships within. The fleet of 4,800,000 battle-ready warships were in position above the planet Earth, awaiting orders from their supreme commander. Dolza was informed of the successful transfer of all ships to this system and immediately issued the order to begin their attack, starting with the planet below.
Default reaction completed. All vessels armed and ready.
Excellent. My first attack shall be the mother planet. All ships stand prepared.
Nearly every single Zentradi vessel split at their forefront, opening their own main guns, similar to that of the SDF-1s, and began charging the energy beams that would begin their assault.
I want to apologize to you, Rick. I mean, about Kyle.
It's not really your fault. I should have let you know what my feelings really were.
But
Oh, Minmei, it's all right.
Rick had just finally resolved all these feelings in his own heart and mind, and now here she was, stirring them all up again inside, not letting him go, when what he needed most right now was to clear his mind for the battle ahead. She was trying to do the right thing and make amends. She'd been realizing that bringing Kyle back to the battle fortress was a mistake for many reasons, not the least of which was how he'd taken her attention away from Rick, had been isolating her from her own old friends. She had begun to see how Kyle had been manipulating her the way narcissistic sociopaths tend to do. And here was Rick, who'd always been so friendly, so supportive, who had even saved her life multiple times. And now he'd told her exactly why he did it.
I wanted to say that I love you.
Oh, Rick.
She wished she'd realized sooner, wished she'd embraced Rick more in her life instead of teasing him or stringing him along. And now she feared it was too late, not only because he was now the one shutting her out. It was most likely the end of the world and the end of their lives. Rick not only wanted to clear his head, but wanted to know that if she survived this battle, and the world didn't end, she could move on and be free, believing there was no way he himself had a chance of surviving, realistically. As she drew nearer in this moment, he wanted to push her away for her own good, but he also couldn't help but let some bitterness against her seep into his words.
How do I tell her? I'm a pilot and you're a big star now. You know it wouldn't have worked for us anyway. It's strange to think how small our world is. It's a pity that so much time was wasted between us, isn't it?
Well, that certainly cut deep. She was now even more confused, but Rick was being pragmatic. He needed to keep his feelings resolved, to steel his nerves for the fight ahead, and although they'd met because of this ship, survived together for days and days within it, and now resided on the battle fortress as the home of them both, they may as well be living on two different worlds. Now, when I watched this as a child, I could not have been more on the edge of my seat in this moment. Not so much with the Rick and Minmei stuff, though I was intrigued by it. But the stakes were just so high, with the fate of the world, the practically infinite number of enemies between our heroes and victory. It all just seemed so insurmountable, so impossible. But if cartoons of the time had taught me anything, it's that the good guys always prevail and save the day. I was so excited to see how the SDF-1 and her crew, with Britai, Azonia, and all the good guys in Trati, were gonna beat back this fleet, send Dolza packing, and save the entire Earth from the bad guys. That is not what happened. The ships of Dolza had been charging their main guns, building up an immense power to fire energy blasts as big as the ships themselves. They unleashed these bolts all around the planet, onto the surface below. The few ships Earth had in space were all instantly demolished against this rain of death that burst through them all on their way to their targets. Across the entire surface of the Earth, Dolza's rain of death poured from his fleet, killing billions and leveling the planet. My own face as I watched this, my reaction, must have matched those of Lisa Hayes, her father, and the rest of those lucky enough to be deep below the surface in Alaska base. Captain Gloval couldn't believe this Dolza could be so ruthless. The entire bridge crew echoing his shock, even Exodor flinching at this show of brutality they witnessed on Vanessa's screen. Dolza smiled and even laughed, watching the end of these puny Micronians, knowing that Britai, his new pathetic allies on Zor's battle fortress, who had caused him much irritation, were witnessing the power at his command and realizing the futility in standing against him. Rick and Minmei also witnessed this destruction together and could not believe their eyes. They could see the Earth lit up by countless flashes of energy waves blasting at it. Minmei was almost afraid to say it, but asks Rick if this means everyone on the planet has now been killed. He wouldn't hide the truth of it from her.
The whole planet!
Are they all destroyed?
Probably.
Oh no! Mother, Father.
Lisa.
Of course, Minmei caught the name of another woman escape Rick's lips, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Minmei saying quietly, as a comfort to herself, a tribute to those now lost to them forever, as a eulogy to the once green and beautiful Mother Earth.
But she couldn't even finish the song before breaking down in tears as the reality of the situation sunk in. However, hearing her sing in that moment, knowing that voice so well, inspired Rick, reminded him of not only what he fights for, but also the effect her singing had on the Zentradi when first exposed to it. And suddenly, he saw a ray of hope that might lead them to victory.
So this is how we end. First the Earth, then the rest of us.
No, Minmei, this is not the end. We still have our lives. It's not over yet. Listen, Minmei, I want you to do something for me. I want you to go now and sing for everyone.
To sing?
Yes, I think I've got an idea.
The part of Alaska base on the surface had been decimated, but deep underground, Admiral Hayes readied the Earth's Hail Mary counterattack. Meanwhile, on the SDF-1, Rick had relayed his idea to Global and Exodore to use Minmei's singing in an attempt to disrupt the Zentradi fleet, knowing its inevitable effect on those who had never heard a song before.
Commander Britai, I want you to consider what I am going to ask you. Please broadcast a simultaneous transmission of Minmei's song on all of your military frequencies.
I have no objection, but what is your plan?
As of yet, the soldiers in Dolza's main fleet have had no contact with Micronian culture, Commander. When exposed to the song, they will be thrown into confusion and it will boost the Micronians' morale. We will certainly benefit from the chaos in their chain of command.
That could provide us with the kind of opportunity we need to catch them off guard.
But the Zentradi are not a force we can attack head-on, Commander.
Precisely, Captain Global. They would never expect us to mount a surprise attack against them.
Britai, of all people, was aware of the psychological effect music would have on all the warriors in Dolza's fleet. The pandemonium broadcasting Minmei's songs across every communication frequency would cause on every ship could open the hole they'd need to attack Dolza head-on. Certainly the last thing he'd expect at this point. But Exodore knew that music was not the only psychological weapon the Micronians possessed. And yet he felt the personal nature of this other artillery warranted a very personal request.
Captain Glevel?
Huh?
Did you call me?
Yes, Miss Minmei. Lieutenant Hunter has told me about his plan, and we are going to utilize his idea for our counterattack.
You will be able to sing a song for us, won't you, Minmei?
Yes, of course. Anything to help out.
Good.
I have only one special request, Minmei. Could you do that thing you do in all your movies? I believe your culture refers to it as a kiss.
Huh? I suppose I could. But why do you need that?
I believe this would act effectively as a kind of psychological shock to all the Zentradi attack forces.
Please. It will benefit our cause, Minmei.
Well, if it'll help.
It's sort of funny how every girl on the bridge all turn in shock at this request. And although Minmei is as naive as any of them as to exactly how this will help anything, it's rather gracious of Minmei to agree to it.
Energy converter is now fully active. Reflex power modules at 100%. All systems standing by with 20 seconds to firing and counting.
Emperor Dolza, we have detected a high-energy reaction coming from the third planet.
Field's building up around the North Pole. The enemy squadron seems to be disappearing, sir.
What? Give me full magnification.
That's maximum, Commander.
What's that? It must be the Grand Cannon.
That's impossible.
Alaska base must have survived then.
Admiral Hayes' counterattack with the Grand Cannon is truly destructive to the Zentradi fleet, and certainly catches Dolza off guard. And the crew of the SDF-1 is certainly heartened to know that someone on the planet survived, especially Alaska base, knowing Lisa is most likely there. and it seemed that the surprise countermeasure from the Earth may have cleared somewhat of a path for the SDF-1 and its allies to push their attack through. Part of the command tower of the battle fortress had been set up like a stage for Minmei and her band to perform on. As they tuned up their instruments, the star of the show was warming up in her makeshift dressing room when she was surprised by a trio of visitors. It was her 3 biggest fans coming to bolster her courage and give her all the support in the universe.
Hi. We understand the pressure you're under, Minmei.
Going into battle can be very taxing.
Oh. Thank you, everyone. You're very kind.
Miss Minmei, 2 minutes.
Coming!
In the novel, we get a brief moment of Minmei and her band trying to decide which song exactly they should sing for an opener as they plow into battle the biggest audience in the galaxy. They joked if they should sing My Boyfriend's a Pilot or maybe Stage Fright. But there was a song Minmei had only completed a few days before that the band had barely had time to rehearse. Against their suggestions, Minmei simply told her group, "No, we'll play the new one." The song she is about to sing mesmerized me as a kid, especially after so many times of hearing Stage Fright or To Be in Love, which are rather annoying after hearing them so often by this point. No, this new song is one of my favorites of all time, with lyrics that have inspired me since I was very young to keep going, keep moving during the darkest times of my life. As Minmei and the band prepared their performance, we are shown the full might of all the forces of the SDF-1, and its Zentradi allies were now also prepared for battle. Every Veritech they had was standing by, armed with the new strike armor pack, making each fighter worth 10. And each of those fighters was also armed with heavy-duty reflex missiles, a volley of which carried with it untold destructive potential. It was now or never, as Captain Global called out one final message to their entire combined force before they launched to avenge the destruction of the Earth.
Attention all fighter pilots. This is Captain Global speaking. Once we enter enemy airspace, it will be necessary to observe total radio silence under all circumstances. Only Miss Minmei's song will be broadcast on all open frequencies. If all goes as planned, the enemy will be thrown into disarray and we will attack in full force. This may be the only chance we'll have. Good luck.
Transmission is being picked up by Dawson's ship's commander.
Good. All ships move out.
What's that on our video monitor? I don't know, but we're receiving it on all our open communication frequencies.
We're within firing range. No counterattack detected.
It's working!
This is it. Fire!
Minmei?
Yes, Kyle, I know. You've come to say goodbye.
Yes. Farewell, Minmei. I'll always remember. Right on target.
Oh, just everything about this scene is so amazingly cool. From Minmei's song to seeing the SDF-1 enter battle along with Britai and his fleet. Not to mention seeing what a massive barrage these cruisers are capable of unleashing in their full attack power. Minmei and Kyle basically do a little skit to prelude their kiss, which does have the desired effect Exodor hoped it would, distracting Dolza's forces as shots from the SDF-1 and Britai's fleet blast right through their ships. Rick watching Minmei's kiss as he bids her goodbye before launching Skull 1 into the fray, firing his missiles at anything that moves, every blip he locks onto as he switches between modes, destroying any attack fired back at him. Even Max and MIRIYA are flying side by side, unable to radio each other due to the Minmei attack blaring on all frequencies, but still reading each other loud and clear as they fight back to back, letting nothing stand between them. It's all beautiful in its terror, inspiring in its destruction, watching our heroes face odds unlike any other, with a determination and a message that they will win, that we can win. We will win. With these words in his ears, his mind, his heart, Rick closes in closer to his Entrati battlecruiser, ready to hit it with a reflex-powered payload.
That takes care of that thing. Yeah!
He hadn't even seen where the volley of missiles had come from, and it was too late to shoot them down. He pulled both of Skull 1's arms tight against its chest to cover where he sat in the Battloid's cockpit. The missiles exploded against Skull 1, the concussive forces detonating, spiraling the VOL.05 out of control, blowing it and Rick out of the stars. Britai Hazonia and the people of Zor's battle fortress had expectedly mounted a counterattack against the Zentradi main fleet after the several million ships it was made of bombarded the surface of the Micronian homeworld, bringing them near to extinction. The Zentradi had to admit these Micronians were fighting fiercely, attacking with indiscriminate use of reflex weapons. Each small fighter a considerable threat to even a Zentradi battle cruiser, if they were able to breach their defensive line and get close enough. Not only that, but the communications of the Zentradi's fleet had been clogged by the broadcast of some kind of psychological strike of the Micronians, disrupting the Zentradi efforts to correlate their own attacks and, in many cases, causing their warriors to even lose the will to fight, while the Micronians closed in like demons. Dolza had also been caught off guard by the massive energy wave that incinerated a substantial part of his fleet. Although he still had the vast portion of the main fleet, that was beside the point. He now knew where this super weapon of the Micronians was located, and had every ship in the planet's northern sector bombard the entire area to eradicate those diminutive deviants on this pathetic planet, determined to destroy whatever weapon had fired the blast from there. Lisa Hayes found herself in the middle of that bombardment, the shockwaves of intense shelling shaking the base around her. The other communications officers had already fled, most right after the initial Zentradi attack, all morale lost. But Lisa stayed, doing her duty. She was attempting to find anyone outside who still was fighting, still trying to defend the Earth, not knowing what happened to the SDF-1, not knowing if her own father was alive or dead.
Sector 4A, come in, please. This is Alaska base. Oh, it's no use. They're gone.
Is that you, Lisa? I'm reading you, but the transmission is very weak.
Thank God you're alive.
The Grand Cannon was severely damaged. It may not fire.
Oh, no!
It seems you were right all the time. The Zentradi forces are much too powerful for our weapons to handle. You have to leave.
Father!
The relief Lisa feels in seeing her father alive, only to have it all dashed as she watches him be vaporized, is absolutely heart-wrenching. She had just reconnected with him after years of estrangement. She'd tried to warn him so many times that this would be the inevitable end of the world, the fate of the Earth, if they didn't sue for peace. And now he was gone, in the blink of an eye. Everyone was gone, and she crumbled, left alone, in the bowels of hell. It might have been minutes or hours, it was hard to tell, but Skull One had drifted away from the battle, closer to the Earth. Its arms completely blown off after protecting the chest from the volley of missiles that struck it, but otherwise mostly in one piece. Its unconscious pilot was awakened by the Veritech's sensors, warning him that re-entry of the atmosphere was inevitable, and he should probably do something about that. Otherwise, the sounds of Minmei's continued singing on every frequency was the only other noise as Rick drifted by himself towards the Earth.
Where am I? What happened? Oh no, I'd better switch to F mode.
The fast pack wasn't designed for atmospheric operation, so Rick discarded it, freeing Skull One of its bulk, before changing the Battloid into its fighter mode, while surrounded by so much debris from the continuing battle far above him. Thank goodness a lack of arms wouldn't affect the fighter's flight capabilities much. Rick watched Minmei on the monitor and knew some time had passed since she'd had a costume change. But there was no time for such distractions as he began re-entry, engaging the armored shield over the canopy to help him stave off the heat. As Minmei's broadcast fizzled out, the transmission lost due to atmospheric entry, his mind drifted back to their last moments together, after he'd told her his idea that she should sing for this battle. He'd wanted her to know that she would be singing for the whole world, for all humankind and their Zentradi allies. She understood that, but now the dam was burst, and she felt a great swell of love for Rick Hunter, letting him know that deep down, she was really singing for him. And then, as they realized how much they meant to each other, as they witnessed the end of the world, he confessed his love for her once more, a confession that, this time, she returned wholeheartedly as they shared their first real kiss. I imagine that helped when Rick witnessed her kiss with Kyle earlier in the battle, understanding what a facade their performance was in that moment. But this memory of kissing Minmei, the knowledge that she did return his feelings, gave him comfort as his fighter finished its descent and his canopy opened on a horrific sight of what Dolza's fleet had wrought upon the earth. As Rick flew along, aghast at the scenery below, he opened up all frequencies hoping to hear anyone broadcasting, hoping for any sign of life. His heart jumped as he heard one of the most familiar voices he could hope to hear, a voice any pilot from the SDF-1 would recognize instantly.
It's devastated.
Please respond. I repeat, this is Commander Hayes of Alaska Base. Anyone that can hear my voice, please respond.
It's me, Lisa.
What? That sounds like Rick. Is that you, Rick?
Lisa, are you all right?
Yes, but I think I'm the only one. I can't reach anyone else.
You're all alone? Lisa, give me your coordinates. Hurry, I'm coming in right now to get you out.
No, you can't, Rick. It's far too dangerous.
What's a little danger have to do with it? I'll get you out of there in no time.
Oh, Rick, I'm so glad it's you. Be careful, all right?
The absolute joy they must both feel at hearing each other's voices after thinking they'd never see each other again. After thinking surely the other must have been killed in this horrific Zentradi attack. After all they'd been through together. Lisa's tears of sorrow after witnessing the death of her father now mixed with tears of joy as the very hero who had already saved her life more than once came flying to rescue her again. Rick headed towards the barrel of the Grand Cannon at Alaska Base, figuring the barrel would get him down to Lisa's position the fastest, but also knowing the damage done to it meant the chances of it exploding on him were fairly high. But just like he told Lisa, there's no way he'd let a little danger like that stop him from coming to her aid. From far away, another small band of Zentradi's ships kept their distance from the continuing battle, the ships belonging to Chiron the Backstabber. He watched not only the battle, but the broadcast of that Micronian female, the songstress that had turned the hearts of so many warriors, caused so much trouble and strife for his people, and he found himself truly fascinated by her. He ordered Grell to move his fleet in towards the battle, asking specifically for Britai's position. Grell seemed incredulous, wondering if Chiron meant to join with Britai or fight against him. Chiron characteristically yelled at Grell, telling him to just follow his orders. And considering how moody and unstable Chiron is, I'd venture to guess that even he wasn't completely sure whom he'd fight for as he gave that order to move in. And to be honest, the show never tells us. But this is far from the last time we'll see the backstabber. And I have my theories on exactly how this battle went for him. But we'll save that for down the road a bit. The SDF-1 was throwing everything it had against any ship that got in its path, firing every weapon, every destroid blasting away with all guns blazing. The combined forces of Britai and Azonia continued to give their full support to the Micronian ship. Even the Arcadia was there to lend a hand. This titanic clash was beginning to take its toll on the mighty battle fortress as some enemy blasts penetrated through her armor, blowing apart the iconic landmarks of Macross City inside, like the fountain by the park and the famous cafe variation, as the citizens of the city feel the shockwaves of these attacks inside their thick defensive shelters. But the SDF-1 did its best to mitigate the incoming fire, being a comparatively smaller ship than many of the Zentradi cruisers and more maneuverable. Minmei's voice continued to spread great inspiration throughout the friendly forces, and immense disruption to Dolza's. Back within the tunnels of Alaska Base, Rick was zeroing in on Lisa's position, hoping to get there before the base either collapsed in on them both or exploded all around them. He'd gone as far as he could, the immovable blast door barring his progress. Nothing a little laser couldn't cut through. As he makes a hole big enough for a person to fit through, he hops out and goes charging into the corridor, only to find Lisa right there, already waiting on the other side. And to see him alive and well and smiling filled Lisa with so much joy. And yet she couldn't help but badger him just a little bit sarcastically, for old time's sake.
It's about time!
They ran to each other, almost euphoric, and they almost embrace. And surely they would have if they'd ever bothered to really sort out whatever their special bond was exactly. But the elation was real, overwhelming, and heartfelt. They'd thought they'd never see each other again, and yet now, they climbed into Skull One's cockpit together, and of course Rick knew it could fit two people, if they were very friendly. It was a somewhat familiar scene, as he lowered the canopy while she made herself comfortable, and off they went. Rick powered through the tunnels, avoiding dangers like the conduit explosion that happens to shatter the canopy, with Rick's helmet on Lisa's head protecting them both. Rick increased power to the Veritex thrusters just in time as they entered the main barrel of the broken Grand Cannon, using essentially a simple booster climb to take Lisa up and out to safety. In space, the way had been cleared by Britai's forces to allow the SDF-1 its final charge at Dolza's massive space fortress. The plan had been to break inside, hopefully through one of the transport tunnels leading to the core, but it seemed the mighty Micronian vessel would have to improvise.
Objective now approaching.
All units lined up, ready and standing by.
Target within range, stand by.
All guard fighters, break off, attack immediately.
Now, Captain.
Open fire immediately!
Using pinpoint barrier energy to protect the impact points of the ship, it bashed its way towards the core of Dolza's fortress, carving its own path. As Minmei's song carried the ship and her crew towards its final objective of the battle. Breaking through to the central space dock, the SDF-1 rose in front of Dolza's command bubble like an archangel. Minmei's image across his screens acting as its herald, come to deliver justice for Dolza's raising of the world. Dolza was almost amazed as he cursed the Micronians' brazenness in this attack. Every hatch, every silo, every single destroyed and armored Veritech, every single piece of ordnance the SDF-1 had been holding back, now opened, loaded, and was ready to launch.
Ready reflex warheads.
What are they doing? They will destroy us both!
Stand by. Fire! Engage barrier system.
The remaining missiles and reflex warheads did their work relentlessly, destroying Dolza's once indomitable fortress from the inside out, breaking and cracking as it exploded, destroying every other ship around it and consuming many others as the resulting barrier overload spread even further, incinerating everything in its reach. As the energy pulls back, one can only wonder if anything, even a super-dimensional fortress, could survive such an event. The explosion is seen from the surface of the ruined, pockmarked Earth, causing Rick and Lisa to finally come to a stop, all alone under the pre-dawn sky. With the canopy now useless, Rick ejects it off of Skull One to give he and Lisa a little room to move about. They looked at the world in the growing light, still shocked at the destruction, but feel resigned to it. As Rick undoes his collar while Lisa removes the helmet, shaking her hair out and enjoying a brief moment of peace, safety, and gratitude towards Rick. As she thanks him, she only kind of moves to shake his hand, and he does give it a bit of an awkward look before taking it and responding politely. It was clear they were still going to dance around their feelings for each other for a while yet. Now, to be fair, they hadn't seen each other for a little while, and neither of them have ever been very good at giving much ground to the other. It was always tough to know where they stood, so the last thing Lisa would want to do is appear too grateful or eager, especially since she was still his superior officer, after all. But at least she could still show him her softer side.
Thank you, Rick.
Sure. Well, I guess I sort of disobeyed your orders again, didn't I?
Yeah, that's all right. I was just thinking about how fortunate I am that you came back just when you did, and about how much I admire you.
Of course.
It looks like the fighting stopped.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's anyone else around.
What do you mean?
Well, we might be the only survivors. It'd be sad to think that we're the only ones left.
That wouldn't be too bad, would it?
What?
At least you'll never be alone.
Oh, Rick.
It's a very sweet moment for the two of them, with Rick smartly and subtly declaring that the spark is still there between them both. And Lisa certainly seemed to agree. And just as they look into each other's eyes, wondering what's next for them, for the world, for all mankind, it's their ears that perk up, hearing the faint sound of a transmission growing louder on Skull One's speakers.
Huh? Do you hear what I hear?
It's Minmei.
Then the SDF-1 survived. You hear it? Over there.
SDF-1!
The fact that the mighty SDF-1 had survived and even returned to Earth was enough to finally cause Lisa and Rick to embrace. And I suppose it's a good thing they didn't kiss, since Minmei was still alive, and she and Rick had finally confessed their mutual love for each other, and oh boy, this was bound to get complicated. But for now, the battle was over. The people of Earth and their Zentradi allies had somehow, against all odds, beaten Dolza's massive force, if only barely. They had done so with music and culture and song as much as any reflex weapon. The damage over the surface of the SDF-1 indicated how close it had come to destruction. But she had done it and kept safe the people of Macross, her crew, and had inadvertently become something of a Noah's Ark for mankind. Rick and Lisa were ecstatic as they watched the SDF-1 settle in one of the craters nearby, finally coming to rest after its monumental victory. They took up their seating arrangements and smiled at one another as Rick prepared to move out, and in a touching gesture, Lisa laid her hand on his before they, together, pushed the throttle forward and began their short journey back to their home. The SDF-1 was now ruined and scarred upon her surface, much like the planet she had now returned to. But within the SDF-1 existed the great people of Macross City, with a great will and determination to rebuild and renew that which was wrecked and broken. As would the other survivors on Earth and their new Zentradi friends, as they worked together to create a new and better tomorrow.
It looks like the fighting stopped.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's anyone else around.
What do you mean?
Well, we might be the only survivors. It'd be sad to think that we're the only ones left.
That wouldn't be too bad, would it?
What?
At least you'll never be alone.
Oh, Rick.
Huh? Do you hear what I hear?
It's Minmei.
Then the SDF-1 survived. You hear it? Over there.
SDF-1!
We will win! We must win! We can
What a sight for sore eyes.
You could say that again.
Come on, let's go.
Okay.
The people of the Earth had defeated the immense main fleet of Dolza and his Zentradi forces, and claimed a great victory, snatching it from the fallout of the near total annihilation of the planet and its populace. Yet, the heroes of this first Robotech war would lead mankind to rise from the ashes of this calamity, and in the shadow of the mighty battle fortress that had been their home, usher in the dawning of a new age. The husk of the SDF-1 had remained where it had rested after the defeat of Dolza, and in its surroundings, the people of Macross had rebuilt their city once again. Parks, schools, lakes, and even mass transit between the places of commerce and the suburbs where most folks reside now spread forth from where the SDF-1 sat like a silent sentinel over the people it had protected. It's here we find Lisa Hayes, enjoying the simple tasks that make a house a home, washing dishes and surveying her surroundings for the next needed chores. We realize that this is not even her home, but that of Rick Hunter's, and Lisa apparently comes by to tidy up for him on a regular basis in what I would consider an extremely sweet act of affection on her part. We still aren't sure what their current relationship status is, if any, but the Minmei poster on Rick's bedroom wall is our first clue, as Lisa enters to straighten up his dirty clothes and unmade bed. She spies a photo album on his desk, and I also think it's touching that Rick has Roy Foker's old flight helmet there as well, a keepsake to remind him of his beloved big brother. It seems to me that these items aren't always part of the clutter in Rick's room, and I wonder if he hadn't been unpacking boxes or something and found this album along with Roy's helmet the night before, taking some time to be nostalgic. Whatever the reason, it was out in the open, and Lisa can't help but be a little curious what pictures Rick would have kept so pristine and dear, along with Commander Foker's belongings. As soon as she opened the cover, she began regretting it.
Hey, what's this? Looks like Rick's photo album. I wonder if he'd mind my looking at it. Of course he'd mind, but in this mess he'd never know I even looked. The first page isn't all that thrilling, at least to me. Little Miss Singing Star. What does he see in her? Not much besides great looks, a lovely voice, and a fabulous career. Lovely Minmei. Starring on every page. I wish someone could tell me why I keep wanting to strangle this girl. Oh, Rick. How can any girl compete with this kind of glamour? I guess you can't help how you feel any more than I can. But you certainly don't look like you're trying very hard to resist. Well, that's that. And if this doesn't teach me to mind my own business, I don't imagine anything will. Oh, no. What's the use? This has definitely not been one of my better days. Well, anyway, the day wasn't totally wasted. I certainly improved the condition of Rick's bedroom.
Did I mention it's gonna get complicated? Seems these two still haven't exactly gotten together in the last 2 years, and I suppose that's understandable. And after all, they've been busy with reconstruction, rebuilding, and reorganizing, well, basically all of human society. And as leaders in the service dedicated to making all of that happen, I can see why they've been dancing around forming any more of an intimate relationship. Although this album is undoubtedly from the earliest days of Rick's enlistment and the start of Minmei's career, and clearly hasn't been updated in a long time, so all the pictures of Minmei make sense. Still, that and the poster, which he probably also hung up just the night before, after finding it packed away too. It all indicates that he's still pining for her. And that declaration of love they've shared has kept that fire burning in Rick's heart this whole time. One more reason he's been holding back, moving forward, with Lisa. Lisa surely had her suspicions that was part of it, but now she felt confirmation. Confirmation found in that photo album. She's clearly upset by it all, and in fact, in the macross version of the show, she shoves her key to Rick's place into his mailbox to basically show she ain't coming back to clean anymore, since this doofus clearly doesn't get it. As for Rick, he'd been tasked with searching the wastes all around the oasis that was New Macross City, flying across the continent and the world, searching for signs of life, or just anything beyond ruined cities and desolate wastelands. Such a daily routine may be more than depressing enough to keep one's mind off the subject of dating or romance. He does perk up one day when he finally spots something new, something hopeful, something that 2 years before would have been overlooked as the most ordinary thing in the world. But today, it was so uniquely beautiful and welcome that he had to stop and take a closer look.
Yep. Absolutely incredible. But it's happening. Real flowers. How long ago was it? Seems like 100 years. When I first dreamed of becoming a pilot, it happened in a field just like this. I chased after a real, honest-to-goodness hero, flying in his own airplane. I didn't even notice the flowers I was trampling on. It's funny. All I ever wanted to do was fly, not destroy anything.
Rick found great irony that this field of flowers was growing up under the broken wreckage of a VOL.05 fighter, a bouquet for the grave of whomever had been its pilot. A pilot that could very easily have been Rick at any point during this war. He had only ever wanted to be a pilot, to ride the wind. But when the Zentradi arrived, the world needed protection. It needed fighters to defend it. But did it do any good? Were they able to really even defend the Earth in the end? As Rick stared at this downed VOL.05 fighter, gleaming in the sun as it rested atop this field of wild flowers, he wondered if, ultimately, he'd done any good at all. While he wondered, the rest of his squadron had wondered where their commander of the Skull Squadron was, as they rendezvoused at their assigned coordinates after their own patrols. He hadn't been answering them on the comms, highly unusual for their group leader. And in their conversation, we find they had every reason to be worried. Although the Zentradi under Britai had, for the most part, joined the Micronian society and adopted their culture as their own, it seemed many of them had grown restless in this era of peace and longed for war and battle, the feeling of conquest that, up until very recently, had been the only culture they had ever known.
With that restlessness had come uprisings and rebellions that the defense forces had to keep tamped down. But there was consistently a feeling of unease, of tension, of dread that these malcontents of the Zentradi may rise up against the humans and the society they strove to rebuild. It was almost as if someone was stoking these fires, stirring this unrest. Some unseen persona that sought to unify the rebellious few into a new army of retribution against these Micronians and their society. Thus, the concern Rick's squadron had over their unanswered calls to him. They decided to head towards his last known position to check on their wayward leader, unaware of the existential angst he now found himself combating.
Well, what now, big brother? I'm still in the service. A guardian of liberty with nothing to guard. A stalwart watchdog watching a field of flowers. What would you do? What are my options? The war is over, but there's still the reality of the Zentradi's presence among us. These giant aliens appear friendly, but how many times have we been victimized by our own friends? Even if they are friends, all I ever wanted to do was fly. And there are no more flying circuses. I wonder if you remember what you said to me on that first day when I enlisted in the service.
An American president once observed that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. There's no more flying for fun. This time you'll be flying for the safety of your home and for your loved ones. For your loved ones, Rick.
Flying for my loved ones. Flying for my loved ones, huh? All right. Time to go flying. Thanks, big brother.
Leave it to Roy, whose words of wisdom and experience can still help Rick find direction and purpose, even years after he's gone.
As Rick continued his patrol, he began picking up a broadcast from nearby Granite City, recognizing Minmei's voice immediately, and also, unfortunately, Kyle's. In all the rigmarole of reconstruction, Minmei had gone off to continue her singing career, now with the purpose of spreading hope and joy throughout the battered world they now lived in. It made sense that she'd continue to seek Kyle's help, and despite the confessions of love she and Rick shared, it seemed they'd drifted apart from each other once more over the last 2 years, busy with their separate walks of life. Not only could Minmei still bring together people, human and Zentradi alike, but the inspiration and happiness she spread also carried a certain nostalgia for folks now, reminding them of the world they knew, while bolstering their spirits as they build for the future. Rick wondered if he could get away with another small detour on his patrol, as he's radioed by his squad, alleviating their concern for him, but also excited to show them his discovery of the flowers. His squad member finds it remarkable, especially since Rick found it outside the nature reclamation zone. This was good news indeed, giving them all comfort that the world would and could be renewed once more. Rick instructs his men to carry on their patrol without him, informing them of his stop in Granite City, and per their request, he promises to take his transceiver with him if he leaves his fighter. It seems the surface of the Earth was littered with many downed Zentradi battleships, both from Dolza's main fleet and Britai's. But they served as an excellent source for raw building materials, as many new communities around the Earth had commandeered them in order to build their new townships, much like we find in Granite City. Rick had landed outside the city and ran the distance to the concert, excited at the prospect of seeing Minmei again. He was trying so hard to catch a glimpse of her over the crowd, he's nearly crushed by a Zentradi spectator, who politely apologizes to the tiny Micronian. Rick lets it go, but seems a bit shaken. Still, even from this far away, his heart was all aflutter seeing Minmei, being closer to her now than he had been in years. And rather far away from them, in New Macross City, Lisa was trying to enjoy the rest of her day off at a cafe, trying to clear her mind, deciphering exactly why she was now so upset with Rick. She happens to see Max and MIRIYA walking across the street, pushing a little stroller with their new baby girl, Dana. They looked so happy together, and she realized how much she longed for such a situation with Rick. Why were they dancing around it with each other for years now? And then the voice of Minmei on a boombox nearby sharply reminds her why, and reminds her what had upset her about Rick so much this morning.
Sure, buddy, dream on.
Miss, could we have a couple of menus over here, please?
There doesn't seem to be any way I can escape you, Minmei. I guess some women were dealt all the aces after all.
At this particular moment, Minmei would be hard-pressed to agree that the hand she'd been dealt was a winning one. Kyle was drinking, as he did so much and so often these days, and going on about the lousy box of supplies they'd been given as payment for this concert. Minmei was rather humble about it, grateful for what these folks had given, reminding Kyle forcefully that this had been a benefit concert for them, after all, and she also reminds him he could show a little appreciation for it.
We're getting paid like everyone else is, in the things that keep us alive. I think we should show a little appreciation.
Appreciation? Are you telling me that I should appreciate the great military mentality that brought us to this?
The military didn't bring us to this. The Earth was attacked and we did the only thing we could do. We fought back.
Fought back? I'm getting sick and fed up with hearing about it. Anybody would think that you've fallen in love with the military.
I just don't want to hear anyone knocking the soldiers is all. If it hadn't been for them, I wouldn't be alive right now. Or for that matter, neither would you.
You're breaking my heart.
Must you keep drinking? It's getting out of hand.
Hey.
Did that make you feel any better about yourself? Whatever you may think about the military, there are many fine men in it. And they are much better men than you are right now.
What's that crack supposed to mean?
It means that they're real men who are trying to rebuild the Earth while all you can do is drink and feel sorry for yourself.
Is that so? Well, I've done a pretty good job of taking care of your career, Miss Big Shot Singing Star.
Maybe we better split up then, so that you can take care of your own career, Kyle.
Huh?
I didn't realize I owed it all to you. I've been selfish.
Wait a minute, Minmei. I didn't mean that I wanted to split up our partnership.
Maybe not, but it's what I meant.
Rick could not have been more heartbroken to see this. The toxicity of Kyle and Minmei's relationship oozing out all around them. Kyle's hostility and intimidating actions, mixed with Minmei's passive aggressiveness, all led to a very unhealthy codependency. It was abusive all around, but always seemed to me that Minmei was certainly more the victim in this. Her inadvertent enabling of Kyle seems to come from good intentions of helping him, and there's no doubt that Kyle tightened his grip on her wherever he could, using any tactic to keep her nearby and dependent on him. And it's not typically the easiest thing in the world to escape a relationship like this, unfortunately. Rick wonders if he should intervene, not totally sure if it would help or just make things worse. Minmei seemed to know how to handle it, sad as it all was. And quite frankly, it looked as though even a drunk Kyle would have no problem beating down Rick in a fight, so... Just as these ideas and options crossed his mind, his transceiver goes off, spooking him. It was Vanessa letting him know of a major Zentradi attack not far away. As Rick gets the details, he realizes that duty calls, and for the time being, he'll have to trust Minmei to be strong enough to deal with her own situation and consider helping her out later. Lisa was back at her place near the base when she also received a call of this major Zentradi conflict in New Portland. She had been afraid of such an escalation occurring and decides she'd better head to her post at the new command center to help oversee the operation. The seriousness of the situation could not be overstated.
The dark and rainy night was illuminated by the fires caused by battle pods, piloted by rampaging Zentradi with a violent lust for destruction. You almost forget just how huge battle pods actually are compared to buildings or battloids, as they crush everything in their path and shoot at everything else. Rick's squadron members arrive well ahead of him and are aghast at the level of destruction these few pods have caused. Just as two scared little girls face imminent death as they hug each other in fear, they're spared a grisly fate as the battle pods detect the incoming Veritechs and eagerly change trajectory to face this greater challenge. The gigantic metal ostriches leap towards the approaching fighters, who switch to Guardian mode, better suited for urban combat. They immediately engage the pods and are successful in their attempt to lead them away from the city. But these hardened Zentradi veterans are no pushovers, even for the skilled Veritech pilots, as they hope reinforcements can come quickly.
This could be described as dereliction of duty, Commander.
Hey, what the devil are you talking about anyway?
Where were you?
I went to see somebody, but what does that have to do with you? I don't understand why you think it's any of your business where I was in the first place.
I can pretty well imagine where you were.
What?
Anyway, it becomes my business when you jeopardize the lives of the men in your squadron, Commander.
What's your problem, Lisa?
Oh, that man!
Take cover, take cover. Lieutenant Commander Hayes is on the rampage again.
It was almost funny how much the drawn-out drama of Rick Hunter and Lisa Hayes was enjoyed as a spectator sport by Vanessa, Sammy, and Kim. As they gossip about it all, Kim rightly wonders how Lisa can allow herself to get caught up in such a predicament. But Sammy is only just getting started.
Oh, but wait, that isn't all.
Ixnay, we're being watched from the control module.
Huh? Uh-oh.
Go ahead, girls. I don't blame you. I guess it is funny.
The Veritech fighters are holding their own against the regal battle pods, but only barely. They're happy to see their squad commander finally arrive. As Rick assesses the situation, he orders his men to go ahead and drop back, while he single-handedly swoops in. In this, we get a reminder just what an amazing pilot and soldier Rick Hunter is. He gives them plenty of opportunity to quietly surrender, but they answer with a barrage of laser fire Rick easily avoids. He takes out the legs of one pod as he lands behind cover, switching modes to Battloid and just totally rocking the world of these upstarts. Being careful to only disable the pods while leaving their rebellious pilots unharmed. He allows them to run off, hoping the lesson is learned, but knowing this problem is probably not going away. As he finally returns to headquarters after a very long night, he can see he has one more battle to fight yet.
Why do I feel like I'm approaching the county hangman, Commander?
Very flattering.
You haven't been very friendly recently.
You're supposed to report to Admiral Gloval on the bridge.
Admiral Gloval? I wonder what he wants.
How was your visit with Minmei? I enjoyed her broadcast from Granite City yesterday.
Well, I didn't actually visit with Minmei.
Was that because she was so surrounded by fans that you couldn't get close to her?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that exactly.
Anything happen?
So what could happen?
I don't know. Rick?
Hey, wait a minute. Lisa, what is this?
Just something to remember me by.
Photographs? But what on earth? Lisa, wait a minute!
You better not keep the Admiral waiting.
Rick finally put it all together, why Lisa had been so miffed at him over the last 24 hours. He realized he must have left that album out, and of course she'd have taken a look. He didn't mean to hurt her at all by that, and actually found it rather touching that she'd give him some new photos to help him diversify the album's contents. And I think it's a sweet gesture from Lisa, and a rather cute way to show that she's ready to take their relationship to a more meaningful level. There was no time to think about that now, though. Admiral Gloval was waiting for Rick in his old ready room near the old bridge of the SDF-1. He commended Rick for handling the pockets of recent Zentradi rebelliousness, but had fears that these were symptoms of a much larger and growing threat. Some undiscovered incursionist seeking to push this concerning trend. Gloval tasks Rick with discovering this threat, while possibly mitigating further incidents by stationing Commission Zentradi closer to the SDF-1 and main base, where they could keep an eye on them for now. Rick hated the idea of such discrimination, but understands the current need and assures Gloval he'll carry out these orders. As he leaves the base, his mind is flooded with concern for Minmei and her current situation, wondering what he should do, what he can do for her. At that same moment, she thought of him and how much she'd missed him in the last 2 years. What was to become of them, and Lisa, who was now decisively making a play for more room in Rick's album, his life, and his heart.
Oh, brother. Why did they promote me to lieutenant? I was so much happier before they gave me these subordinates to command. Oh, I forgot! Minmei's gonna kill me if I don't get her a birthday present. Now where am I gonna find something at this time of night?
As he tries to come up with an excuse, a funny anecdote, anything he can tell her to salvage this oversight, he sees her in the window, and she spots him as well. Well, she's happy to see him, and as he admits he's come to apologize, she assumes it's just for coming so late to give her a present. Rick just can't admit he'd never picked one up, so he scrambles for anything on his person that could work, and fortunately finds...
You didn't forget, and you still have time. That's fabulous, Rick. It's not midnight yet, so it's still my birthday.
I guess it could be a gift, so why not? Yeah! Hey, here it comes! It must be my day. Catch! Here you are!
I got it! Oh, caught it! Oh, what is it? Oh, it sparkles and it's so beautiful. Did you really get this for me, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Wherever did you get it?
I'll tell you later, Minmei. Happy birthday! Bye!
Bye! He's so sweet.
But Minmei is smiling, her birthday ends happily, and all is well aboard the mighty SDF-1. This really was the last time Minmei and Rick were very close, as soon afterwards she'd win the Miss Macross contest. And not only would her life change, everything would change. Minmei mania would sweep through the ship, and from there,
continue to spread through the Zentradi armada tailing the SDF-1, where her voice and influence would affect the biggest change of all. This change would lead to a Zentradi rebellion against their own kind. That devotion to her and the culture she represented was something they found worth dying for. Many Zentradi lives would be lost, even as they clutched tiny Minmei dolls in their giant hands, both wasting away as remnants of a lost era. Even as they stand as monuments to their sacrifice in the wastes of the planet they saved. The world was certainly a different place now, a different era, as Minmei wraps up a show at an exclusive club not far from New Macross City, where even her talent and reputation among humans and Zentradi alike were unable to pack the house. Kyle remarks on how empty it was, critiquing Minmei on the lack of quality in her performance tonight. She's not even bothered by his words, shrugging them off and remarking how maybe the audience would have been bigger if they didn't charge so much for admission. Kyle playfully reminds her that they're still trying to save up to build a great concert hall one day. But Minmei hesitates at the thought and quietly admits she isn't even sure what she's singing for anymore. Kyle ignores this as nonsense, promising her a big, nice dinner. Sure, that'll make her feel better.
I'm not very hungry, Kyle.
We're going to eat anyway. I'll get the car. Come on, get in. Where would you like to eat?
Your dad's restaurant. We haven't been there in a long time.
I don't want to go there.
Then let me off and I'll go there myself.
Oh? Minmei, we could have been killed.
I am sorry, Kyle, but I'm really going there, even if it means I have to go by myself. Goodbye.
No, wait. Get back in the car.
Why should I?
I'll drive you as far as the city line.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
Things aren't getting better for these two. And it's telling that Kyle doesn't even want to stop in to see his own parents. It's clear Minmei is looking for a place of comfort and safety to go to, and maybe even desiring to return to her past, to before everything changed. Back at the SDF-1, Exodore, Dr. Lang, and a whole battalion of Robotech engineers and scientists had been working around the clock to decipher the secrets of Zor's ship, to understand the genetic code of humans and Zentradi, and learn the cryptic histories of both, that they might learn to not repeat the mistakes of either. Exodore and Lang had called Admiral Gloval and his personal advisors, which included Lisa, Claudia, and Rick, to a meeting of some of their latest findings. It was clear that the origins of both species were almost certainly descended from the same race. This would naturally include the people of Tyrol and the Robotech Masters, as well as Zor himself. Of the many commonalities all these races shared, one striking and alarming trait was a tendency towards violence and war, a trait not exclusive to the Zentradi and their biogenetically engineered aptitude of fighting. Rick takes some offense at this and begins arguing with the scientists that humans don't fight because they like it, but his point is countered by Lang, who reminds Rick of mankind's own history of the many wars, deaths, and genocides they'd inflicted on themselves.
long before the SDF-1 and the Zentradi. Their discussion gets heated before Exodor and Gloval interject, reminding everyone that these findings are simply to help them all create a future better than the pasts from which they've descended. Rick is still uncomfortable at the thought, though, but keeps the rest of this to himself for now. He knows war and fighting aren't the answer, and both races needed to overcome those mistakes. It didn't help that many Zentradi were still up and leaving their new lives, their jobs, and causing trouble in most sectors where they were stationed. We see the continued unrest caused by many of them to wander off into the wastes. Back in New Macross, Minmei makes it to Aunt Lena and Uncle Max's restaurant. Of course, Mayor Tommy Lewin and his wife are there too, as per usual. They're all surprised to see Minmei, and when she asks if she can stay the night, her uncle tells her that this is her home, and she can even have her old room kept just like she'd left it.
Isn't that great? She hasn't changed a bit, even after becoming famous.
It's Minmei. Can I have your autograph?
She's still our little girl.
Oh no! That makes me sound like a little child who hasn't grown up at all.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way.
As she starts drawing a bit of a crowd, she decides to go rest in her old room. She's almost hesitant to enter, like it's a portal to another life. A life that was, a life that might have been. As she makes herself comfortable, she notices the shoddy repair work in the corner, left over from the first time she and Rick met, and... back when he nearly killed her and her neighbor, Jason. Talk about a meet cute. Good times. Still, that was a happy memory, and it was the day she met him. At the thought of him, she goes and checks, and sure enough, there was his birthday present to her, still kept safe in the drawer. As she fondly remembers the night he gave it to her, how surprised and excited she was by it all. She swears she could hear him calling to her just like he had that night. But as she runs to the window, there was nothing there but an empty street, reminding her of the emptiness she felt inside.
Oh, Rick, what have I done? What have I done?
The next morning, the rising sun was glinting off the battered battle fortress as the city began to stir. A young paperboy runs about making his deliveries, and I'm pretty sure it's little Jason, now a few years older, though we're never told for sure. He is surprised to see Minmei emerge from the restaurant and is happy to see her. She bids him good morning, but doesn't seem to recognize him now that he's a little older, which disappoints him. A few blocks away, we find Rick jogging along, running near a cleaning service with a trio of employees who seem very familiar. It seems Rico, Conda, and Braun have not only given up any semblance of military life, but I swear they want to try every aspect of Micronian society, as we'll find them at different odd jobs from this point on in the story. Right now, they were trying out a dry cleaning business, but Conda comes in excited to tell them the news he'd heard about Minmei being in town, even staying at her family's restaurant last night. Just as Rico and Braun argue that can't be true since she has a concert in another city tonight, she happens to walk right up to them, and they act like they're seeing an angel. Until they start fighting over clothing they want her to autograph. But Minmei finds them delightful and is happy to see them again. Rick turns a corner and runs into Lisa, who's out for a morning stroll of her own. I feel like the friendliness and ease of their conversation and the way they are with each other in this instance is far more typical of their interactions these days than the arguing we saw in the last episode. Rick even excitedly tells her that he put the picture she gave him in his album, which she says is sweet of him. Right as Rick has more to say about it, he turns and sees Minmei of all people, watching he and Lisa talking in such a familiar manner. Now, Minmei knows who Lisa is. She knows Rick and her have worked closely together. And she definitely took note in that moment when the Earth was attacked and Rick quietly mentioned her name. And here was Minmei so nostalgic about Rick, so desperately wanting him to rescue her from her current life, the way he'd swooped in before so many times back then. But it looked to Minmei that maybe she was too late. Maybe Rick's heart had moved on with this Lisa, who had surely been there for him when Minmei had brushed him aside in lieu of her career and Kyle. The thought was more than Minmei could bear at that moment. She welled up in tears and ran away, causing a concerned Rick and an exasperated Lisa to chase after her. But she was too fast and practically vanished around a corner before they could even catch up. And before they can even think to maybe follow her to the restaurant, they heard some Zentradi-sized commotion not far away. A pair of giants were wreaking havoc, terrorizing the poor mayor, threatening him if he didn't provide them with food, valuables, and anything else they asked for. As Tommy Lewin tried to handle the situation, his wife was calling the authorities, reporting the incident, until they pull her out of the window and begin to threaten her. Tommy moves to defend his poor wife, and just as Rick and Lisa closed in, it seemed a third Zentradi giant had followed these two, trying to get them to stop this thuggery before they got themselves killed. The mayor gladly turns negotiations over to Rick, and as Rick begins talking with these disaffected troublemakers, destroyed security forces arrive, forcing the giants into a much more amicable position. The destroyed commander, Dan, recognizes Rick and Lisa and defers to them in the situation.
Hey, Commander, what happened?
Don't worry, Dan. Let me handle this.
Whatever you say, sir.
Now you listen to me. And you listen good. I know life with us is hard for you, but the authorities want to help you with your problems if you give them a chance.
Wait a minute. If your government is so worried about us and so concerned with our welfare, why don't they let us go out and be with our own people where we belong?
Well, that's...
I am a warrior, understand?
Well, what about it? He wants to fight. Can you help him?
I'm good with my fists, and I can handle practically any weapon. So what do you say? Can you help me? Speak up. I can't hear you. Well, are you gonna help me or not?
Well, we have no firm guarantee the other Zentradi won't attack at any time. My answer is no.
If you can't help me solve my problem, then what's the point in saying you or your government will talk about it, Micronian?
On my signal, blast him!
No, wait! Don't shoot!
Wait! Dan, hold your fire!
Rick wouldn't let violence be the solution here. He was determined to show that the humans were wanting, willing, and able to help their Zentradi allies. They wanted to work together with them to correct the mistakes of the past, overcome their natural instincts to fight, and create a better future for them all. As he voices this to the giant, a great shame comes upon him, and he and the other wander off, even as their third friend shouts after them to stop and come back, reminding them of how great they thought the Micronians were, how wonderful Minmei's songs were. Minmei hears this and isn't sure how to feel, even as this Zentradi calls his rebellious friends cowards for walking away from it all. Rick and Lisa are greatly alarmed at this incident, wondering why the Zentradi are acting like this, and where else they might go, as the mayor adds his voice to theirs, noting it's the responsibility of all humans to help the Zentradi before things get even worse. It's then we finally get a glimpse of the one making it worse, the one stoking these fires, as we look in on a Zentradi ship hiding in the cold of the North Pole, surrounded by battle pods hidden in the ice and snow. Chiron the Backstabber finds the news of the growing Zentradi malcontents exciting, knowing his machinations and manipulations are coming to fruition. It's unsurprising to see Grell still with his commander, but Azonia has also joined Chiron in some kind of solidarity with this usurper. And it's not a great mystery why or how. Looking back on their previous interactions, it seems obvious that there was an attraction between these two, or at least, Azonia seemed to have a taste for bad boys. And I wonder if seeing the happy look on her First Lieutenant MIRIYA Perina's face as she bonded with that Micronian male didn't stir something within Azonia, some desire to have that same look of joy, that same life that MIRIYA had. Perhaps she even fantasized about sharing that life alongside MIRIYA and her chosen champion. As for Chiron, it was always my theory that during the great battle with the main fleet, he intended to prove his loyalty to Dolza and attack Ritai's ships, which included Azonia's. But perhaps his own attraction to her caused him to rescue her and her ship in the midst of that battle, saving her life and securing her loyalty to him, creating a semblance of that bond of love the Micronians share with their mates. Whatever the case, and however it happened, Azonia was fully on board with Chiron and his plans, even deferring to him as the commander of their forces. And at this moment, Chiron couldn't be more elated that their forces were growing in number.
What's that? Gerardo, are you absolutely sure of it?
Yes, sir, I'm sure. Our spies have reported that thousands of dissatisfied Zentradi are leaving town after town. They are estimated to be around 10,000, sir.
Ah, splendid. An interesting occurrence, wouldn't you say? Worth the 2 of you wait in a terrible place like this, eh?
Indeed.
Their taste for the Micronian lifestyle was only temporary. I knew that after a little while they'd get tired of it. And you see, I was right.
Yes, Chiron.
Now look, if things keep going as they have been, we can put together a battalion that I guarantee you will take.
Yes, of course we shall. Now then, listen everyone! You needn't hide yourselves any longer! You are Zentradi warriors! I want you to lead all the escapees here! And I want you to tell all the micronized Zentradi that if they come, I'll return them to their original size so that they too may walk proud and tall.
As Chiron's army grew, Admiral Gloval was putting forth the mandate for a very special, secretive mission. As he and Exodor call forth their finest officers in Max, MIRIYA, Lisa, and Rick to inform them of their needed expertise. Exodor reports their findings of the ROBOTECH Factory Satellite, a massive space station in which many, if not most, of the Zentradi vessels had been fabricated. It was Gloval's intention that this factory satellite must be captured, not only to prevent the remaining Zentradi or Robotech masters from rebuilding a fleet such as Dolza's own, but it was time the Earth began construction of its own fleet in defense of mankind and to begin its own expansion amongst the stars. The utter importance of this mission's success could not be overstated by Gloval, as one by one, Rick, Lisa, Max, and MIRIYA confirmed their understanding of the mission priorities and began to plan their capture of the ROBOTECH factory. Far across the galaxy, near the planet Phantoma, on the moon of Tyrol, The Robotech masters themselves were informed of a massive release of reflex energy near the last known coordinates of Dolza's main fleet. A fleet there had been no sign of since. After much debate concerning if the disciples of Zor could harness the secrets of his ship to destroy a fleet of 4 million, they determined that perhaps a Robotech barrier, if it was to be inverted and overloaded, could create that level of a destructive energy wave. In theory. Whatever had happened to the fleet, such an anomaly had been detected, and that level of protoculture energy released at once would very likely draw the attention of the dreaded Invid. It was imperative that the Masters reach this location first, confident that only Zor's battle fortress could induce such an energy wave. Now knowing their Zentradi have failed, and they must capture the ship for themselves, before the Invid find it first. Kyle was watching the clock, knowing he should never have let Minmei go home, now that she was late to her own concert. Not that it mattered much with the tiny turnout of the crowd out there. Even the venue's promoter was nervous, as he and Kyle argue over if Minmei was going to show up at all, Kyle telling him he had every faith in her as a professional. He's happy to be proven right, as an employee runs in to tell them Minmei's actually been getting ready in her dressing room for a bit already, having snuck in without announcing herself. Kyle barges in, yelling as he demands to know what took her so long, and she doesn't even care. Doesn't care about him. Doesn't care about crowd sizes, or money, or the concert hall they dreamed about together. She vows to Kyle that from now on, she'll only be singing for herself. He was baffled at what that even meant, but how could he understand how she'd felt? She had to sing for herself now. It was all she had. She'd wondered if her singing hadn't done more harm than good. An entire race of people had gone to war with each other over the influence her voice had over them all. Her songs may have doomed the world, even as they were used to defend it and win that war. And the devoted Zentradi, who'd given their lives in that effort she feared, may have done so in vain.
It's you I miss. It's you who's on my mind. It's you I cannot leave behind. It's me who's lost. The me who lost her heart. To you who tore my heart apart. If you still think of me, how did we come to this? Wish that I knew it is me that you miss. Wish that I knew it is me that you miss.
There was a little more hustle and bustle near the SDF-1 and its surrounding base this morning, as a massive operation was underway to launch the elite hand-picked team of Veritech fighters and specialists out into the frontier of deep space. This special operation they were to embark on was one of utmost importance and utmost secrecy. Despite the seriousness of the moment, Rick Hunter couldn't help but be a little giddy to be heading back into space, surprised to find himself actually kind of homesick for it. He and the other VOLTech fighters launch ahead of the crewed shuttle. As they all achieve orbit around the Earth, rendezvousing with a ship nearly 10 times the size of the SDF-1. A ship we recognize as the personal flagship of Zentradi Commander Britai. Rick can't help but be flooded with memories of that ship, and not necessarily fond ones. He's really just happy that this time they're being welcomed inside instead of having to break in like before.
Welcome aboard, Micronians.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. The same to you, too. Well, if you're ready, let's bring her down.
It was refreshing, after handling the pockets of Zentradi rebellion on the Earth, to see this crew of giants working so closely and smoothly with their tiny Micronian allies. In fact, it appears this entire ship has been retrofitted to help house a Micronian crew. The excitement of seeing what the future of these two societies coexisting could be like helped fuel Rick's resolve that they were doing some good in the universe. As Lisa and Claudia disembark their shuttle along with Exodor, the small Zentradi is happy to be personally welcomed by none other than his former Lord Commander, Britai.
My Micronian friends, welcome.
Greetings and salutations, your lordship. We're at your service.
It's good seeing you, Exodor, and it's nice to have you back on the ship.
Why, thank you, sir.
My friends, I especially wish to welcome you, and I am deeply honored to have you under my command.
It's a great honor, sir, to have this opportunity.
Thank you. As you may know, my people are unaccustomed to contact with beauty such as yours, so don't be surprised at any strange reactions. Now then, if you'll permit, I'll show you to your quarters.
Of course, this wouldn't be the first time Lisa and Britai had met exactly. But Lisa was pleasantly surprised what a noble gentleman this enormous warrior could be. Britai had fully embraced this alliance of Zentradi and human culture, and it's wonderful to see a leader such as him commanding with grace, honor, and the kind of quiet dignity one in his position should embody. We find Max and MIRIYA engaging in a special operation all their own, as they lower what Max calls a cradle pod that looks rather cozy and comfortable inside. And good thing too, as we see Max retrieve from it his incredibly cute tiny daughter, Dana, all snug in her very own spacesuit and helmet. As Max lifts her up to see her mommy, you can feel the pride beaming off MIRIYA, looking down at her creation. Britai's command bubble had finally at some point removed the broken glass and fixed the rear display, but also had been fitted with workstations for Micronians and Micronized Zentradi. Claudia goes over the last-minute checks with the Zentradi crew, making sure all departments are ready, before informing the imposing commander that the ship is ready for its journey into reaches of space no human had yet to venture.
Hey, remember the last time we were on this ship? Being a prisoner wasn't much fun, was it? I'm sure glad things have changed. I don't want to see Britai on the other end of a laser cannon ever again.
It's not inaccurate to say that Rick and Britai had personally gotten off on the wrong foot together. But they had certainly come a long way since to truly see eye to eye. Seriously though, Max and Rick seem very happy to be in a very different circumstance this time within the Zentradi vessel. In fact, in the macross version of this scene, Max actually wants to throw a little get-together for the former prisoners of that adventure. He'd been looking for an excuse to show MIRIYA what a human house party could be like anyway, and he wasn't shy about wanting to show off some of his other skills.
一度ミリアにも地球のホームパーティーってのを見せてやりたいと思ってたんです。料理はどうするんだい？僕に任せてください。和風、洋風、中華風、どれでもリクエストに応じますよ。お前ってまるでスーパーマンだな。
Max is definitely a man of many talents. Now, there is a scene here in Robotech where we get to look in once again on the Robotech Masters as they prepare their journey to the Earth system. We get a glimpse into their machinations as they attempt to clone a copy of the legendary Master Zor, and it's implied this is far from the first attempt. But it's a slow and plodding scene, meant to keep us prepped for the next upcoming arc of Robotech, and does little for the plot of this episode. Instead, I'd like to show you the scene from Macross that it replaced. It's an incredibly delightful scene that, if you've only ever watched Robotech, you've missed out on. And once you see it, you may realize why the folks behind Robotech were wary of showing it to the kiddos watching in the West. But I want to include it here in its entirety. Some of the names are a little different, but I think you savvy viewers can follow along no problem.
ねえミリア、コミリアちゃんちょっとだけ抱かせてくれない？
子供が抱きたかったら自分で作ればいいだろう。これは私が作った子供だ。
ミリア、そういう言い方は良くないよ。早瀬翔さんに抱かせてあげなさい。
わかった。翔さん、行きますよ。ほら。
なんてことするの？
怪我はないよね？
大丈夫ですよ。コミリアは骨格がしっかりしてますから。
だいたい戦場に子供を連れてくるなんて非常識も甚だしいわよ。
自分の子供ぐらいちゃんと守ってみせる。
あなた少しくらい戦闘能力が高いからってまるで人見知りしないのね。
本当？私にも抱かせて。
ダメ。私の方が先よ。
ケチ。
ダメ。
ほら、コミリアちゃん。レロレロバー。笑ったじゃない？ほら。
コミリアを捉えてミリア怒ってんじゃない？
心配ないですよ。あれはですね、自分の子供がチヤホヤされてるんで気分がいいって顔です。
そうか？
それより早瀬さんの方に気を使った方がいいんじゃないですか？ほら、あの嬉しそうな顔見てごらんなさい。赤ん坊が大好きでしょうがないんでしょうね。自分の子供だったらもっとすごいだろうな。早瀬さんの赤ちゃんだったら見てみたいと思いませんかね、一条大。
そんな目で見るなよ。
なに？男同士で内緒話？
そうそう、女には聞かせられません。
あら悔しい。さあミリア、こっちにいらっしゃい。女は女同士ではーっと賑やかにやりましょうよ。
そうか、昔のゼントラーティ軍のようだ。
I'm pretty confident the makers of Robotech didn't want to encourage kids to throw their baby brother or sister around the living room, so I imagine they omitted this scene for liability reasons. But it's not only an amazing glimpse into the life and relationship of Max and MIRIYA, we also get to see Max using his greatest superpower of all. I'm not talking about his prowess in battle, as awesome as that is. I mean his ability to see things, to see the truth of any person or any situation. He's always been supportive of Rick getting together with Lisa, realizing the trouble and turmoil Minmei inadvertently causes his buddy. He's often vocalized this, albeit gently, knowing that Rick and Lisa are kinda into each other, and he sees them as a good match.
I'm ready. It's your move.
Well, pucker up.
It worked!
Let's go!
Wait, guys!
Oh!
It's not who you think. It's me, Max. Look!
What a relief.
We thought you were dead.
Up you go. Now, hold on a minute, Ben. All right.
What's the idea?
We'll just put you in this pocket by yourself so you don't interrupt the lovebirds, huh? I don't see anyone coming. Boy, Lieutenant, you really had me fooled. I mean, well, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I thought you preferred younger women. Now you seem to like the more mature.
But wait a minute, Max.
The only reason we did that was to escape.
Oh, mum's the word. I promise you won't hear me telling anybody about it when we get back to the base.
Now see here, Corporal.
If you two keep making so much noise, somebody's gonna notice us.
We both know that it was my instructions that were responsible for your being seriously injured.
Hey, has Minmei been here yet? Looks like she brought some real nice flowers.
Minmei hasn't been here at all. My room decorations came from Commander Hayes.
So what's wrong with that?
Come on, will ya?
We'll see you later.
That was nice of the lieutenant to bring flowers, wasn't it? He's been sitting at that table for over half an hour and he hasn't even touched his food. I'd better see if there's something I can do to help. Lieutenant, can I talk to you for a minute? It's too early to be depressed about this. I'm sure Commander Hayes will get back somehow.
First of all, I'm not even thinking about her, and secondly, what makes you think I'm depressed?
You might just need some kind of excitement to help distract you. How about a game? And I know just the place. Come on, let's go.
Huh?
And here he is, encouraging his friend to make a move and start that family. A decision that's made Max one of the happiest guys in the universe.
Oh, Max, look. She's so peaceful. Oh.
Yeah, but we better keep our voices down or she'll wake up.
But the indecisive Rick is bound to hem and haw over it for a bit longer, even as Lisa and Claudia conspire to further her progress with Captain Hunter, ready or not. The trio walk down to their own quarters, but outside of Lisa's, she asks to have a word with Rick inside, though she needs to finish a conversation with Claudia first. Rick is hesitant, worried what trap he may be falling into. But with a little nudging from Claudia, he gives in without further protest. The girls walk away with Lisa thanking Claudia for her advice and encouragement. And Claudia even adds a little more to Lisa's bag of courage before retiring herself for the night, kicking off her heels and hoping those two can finally get it together. In Macross, there's a little bittersweet moment here where she feels some regret after playing with Max and MIRIYA's baby, that she never got to have one with Roy. Inside of Lisa's quarters, Rick can't help but notice a framed photo of a young teenage Lisa with a very innocent smile on her face. Not exactly like the stern soldier she was when he'd first met her, all business and commanding. It seems a little funny at first that Lisa would card a photo of her ex-fiancé with her on a mission across the galaxy, but I had always assumed that maybe she'd brought it with, in anticipation of this chat with Rick she hoped to have on this journey billions of miles away from anywhere anyone had ever even heard of Lin Minmei. Maybe she'd hoped to open this discussion by telling Rick about Carl Reber and how when he died, she'd closed off her heart to spare herself of ever having to feel such grief again. A grief that seemed probable if she fell in love with another military officer and he were to be killed like Carl. And maybe she would have told Rick that despite those reservations, she found herself willing to open her heart again, now, with him. And then see how he reacted and go from there. As Lisa enters her own quarters, she's a little thrown that Rick is looking at that personal photograph. But for as embarrassed as he is, feeling like he was caught snooping, she lets him off the hook. extending a certain warmth and inviting him to look around, feeling she had nothing to hide from him. She makes some tea and sits down with him, but he already seems nervously defensive about whatever she has to discuss with him, probably out of old habit more than anything else. She understands and does her best to help him relax and lower his guard. And really, just as she's about to lead into whatever talk with him she'd rehearsed in her head.
Rick, you know what
Captain Hayes, please report to the bridge immediately. Captain Hayes to the bridge.
The usual perfect timing. Well, you've managed to escape unscathed once again. Goodbye, Rick. We'll try again another time.
The important matter that called Lisa to the bridge was the discovery of the wreckage of a reconnaissance craft. One that had recently become wreckage, alluding to a hostile reception waiting for them when they reach the factory satellite itself. Lisa makes the case to investigate further, wondering if some of the crew may still be alive, needing help. But Exodor confirms 0 biological life signs, and is wary to do any further investigation, convinced this ship may possibly be booby-trapped, the same way the SDF-1 originally was. Even Claudia agrees that their current mission is too important for such risks, and Lisa reluctantly concedes, before Britai orders another spacefold, leaving behind the ominous portend of the derelict ship. Some time later, Britai's ship defolds in the vicinity of the target of their mission, the truly awesome ROBOTECH Factory Satellite.
My dear colleagues, we have arrived.
That's incredible. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
Whatever power that created that must be amazing. It's hard to believe that such a thing exists at all.
Well, all I can say is you better believe it.
Lisa reiterates the importance of Max and MIRIYA's part in this next step of the plan, as Max calmly confirms, while he and MIRIYA are lifted up to the flight deck, their red and blue Veritechs armed with powerful strike packs. Britai then bids Exodor to summon Captain Hunter to the bridge. Lisa is surprised by this, wondering why in the world he'd want Rick to come up here at this time.
Captain Hayes, I must apologize for not having informed you sooner, but are you aware of the necessity for diversion to throw off the satellite tracking personnel?
Yes, sir, I support the diversionary tactic, but weren't you proposing to use Minmei? I thought we were going to broadcast her voice.
Correct. However, we have devised a small modification.
Your lordship, that was your plan from the beginning, was it not?
Exodor, your modesty equals your intelligence. Captain, we have decided that the kiss would be a more effective counterattack. Don't you agree?
I suppose so.
I'm sure you recall the extraordinary effect produced when you and Captain Hunter touched lips.
Lisa? Oh, come on. Can't you see it's a brilliant plan? Nothing to get upset over.
Lisa was certainly not averse to the idea, really, but she knew Rick well enough to understand how conflicted he would feel about it all. Max and MIRIYA were headed off together towards the Zentradi fleet guarding the ROBOTECH factory when Britai is hailed by the fleet's leader, Commander Reno. Reno is suspicious of Britai and his intentions, but Britai dispels those suspicions by directly, confidently, asking for Reno's immediate surrender. Reno finds this amusing, and as he and Britai banter back and forth almost like old friends, Rick finally enters the bridge, reporting as ordered. He's welcomed by Britai as Lisa approaches him, and Britai has his own view screen camera zoom in directly on the pair, knowing that merely seeing a male and female in such proximity to each other would stir certain consternations within Reno. And he's right. Reno is somewhat alarmed and even curious at what Britai is playing at. Britai cryptically leads Reno to believe that he's in for quite a shock. Rick is just starting to understand what they're all alluding to, and why Lisa is looking at him like that. He actually starts protesting this plan. Max and MIRIYA are monitoring the entire exchange as they stealthily close in on Reno's vessel, Max finding the situation rather amusing, as MIRIYA chimes in to ask Max why Rick wouldn't want to kiss when it was such an enjoyable activity. As Rick and Lisa's argument escalates in classic Rick and Lisa fashion, Exodore sees the time is right to initiate the Minmei attack, broadcasting one of her biggest hits on all frequencies across the fleet.
No, Lisa, I'm telling you, I'm not gonna consent to the kiss. Orders or no orders. I'm sorry, but my mind is made up.
Stage lights splashy, the feeling smashing.
No more, please turn it off!
It's unbelievable, Lisa.
Well, Reno, perhaps this will please you. What? A male and female touching lips? Can't be. It's impossible. I can't watch anymore. Turn off the monitor. That display gained you nothing.
Lisa certainly seemed more eager for this kiss than the first one they'd shared on this ship a few years before, and Rick certainly ceased protesting once their lips touched, undoubtedly feeling that spark between them ignite in a blaze as it had before. But there was little time to think about it all, as the next phase of their multi-part plan was about to unfold.
Contact in 3 seconds.
You can only hope.
Reno's command deck was suddenly under attack, assaulted by 2 Micronian craft landing in perfect tandem. They are immediately surrounded by armed Zentradi, who order these Micronians to exit their craft and surrender. But one of these pilots isn't a Micronian at all. Max wishes his wife luck as MIRIYA opens her canopy, removes her helmet, and sternly declares she is no Micronian, but a micronized Zentradi warrior. Reno recognizes the famous MIRIYA Perino and calls her by name. MIRIYA proceeds to introduce the officer of the Earth Forces to her left, Max Sterling, whom she refers to as her mate. Reno is confused by the term, and Max, with cool, calm concern in his voice, asks MIRIYA to explain it to them.
Ow, but this is impossible!
When the 12 moons, that thing is deformed!
Oh, what is it? It moves!
MIRIYA proceeds to explain what an infant is, proudly and lovingly describing how it was created within her own body, by her and her mate. As she describes further the process of creation and the power found in love, the Zentradi begin to drop their weapons in shock, while MIRIYA raises up her daughter for all to see, causing the giant warriors to shrink back, worried that whatever created this little monster might be contagious. They all finally bolt and run from the chamber, quickly spreading word of this infectious disease of the Micronians. Even Reno runs to find shelter from this threat. On his ship, Britai allows himself a moment of good-humored satisfaction at the visceral reactions his former peers were having at this Micronian culture, as were Claudia and the rest.
I can't imagine why they reacted like that. I think Max and MIRIYA's baby is very cute, don't you? Stop it, Claudia.
None of you should underestimate the opposition's capability. All fighters prepare for immediate attack.
All personnel report to battle stations immediately. Red alert. This is not a drill. Repeat, red alert. All Veritech fighter groups to launching platforms. Skull Squadron up first, followed by blue, green, and brown.
Skull Squadron, you are go.
Repeat, you are go.
Roger, Command. Liftoff positive.
An immense attack force is mobilized from Britai's ship, armed to the teeth and eager to accomplish their mission, a mixed force of Earth's best and friendly Zentradi alike, headed to quickly take advantage of the disorder and disarray in Reno's fleet. Reno was meeting resistance from his own officers to counter this attack, as they're now all completely shaken and afraid of Micronian contamination from whatever that tiny thing was. While Reno yells at his men to move out, none of them are paying attention to Britai's own ship closing in on theirs, firing a full barrage to destroy the entire front end of Reno's vessel, killing him and throwing his command structure into even greater confusion. Rick and the Skull Squadron fly into the thick of it, aiming to use torpedoes meant to disable the Zentradi ships guarding the factory satellite, instead of reflex warheads to obliterate them. MIRIYA and Max meet up with the rest of the Skull Squadron as Dana gleefully sits on MIRIYA's lap while her mommy goes to work. To this enemy fleet, it was utter chaos, with missiles flying everywhere, unsure of who was friend or foe. While Britai's forces decimate whatever resistance they met, the importance of their mission to the future of Earth and their alliance with Britai's people being absolutely paramount. They, along with the Veritechs, maneuver the enemy pods into range of Britai's secret weapon, a neutron cannon. A reworking of many of the smaller guns on the mighty flagship to fire some mostly invisible particle beams at the enemy craft, which Lisa declares are all within sight of this new weapon. Britai orders the neutron cannon to fire, and we witness as it shreds any and all remaining resistance in the path of Britai's ship, on its way towards its new prize, the ROBOTECH Factory Satellite. Any remnants of Reno's fleet immediately surrendered, and Britai commands Exodor to issue a mandate that all Zentradi who wish to are welcome to join Britai's forces and help in their cause. As if they had much choice now, but it's clear that Britai wishes not to destroy the remaining Zentradi in the galaxy, but invite them to partake in this new alliance with the Micronians. As they enter the factory, they direct the ship closer to the reflex engines of the satellite itself. For several days, they prepare the ROBOTECH factory for transport to the Earth system, finding it necessary to connect the fold engines of Britai's own ship in order to control the massive complex on such a long journey through folded space. Once the system is properly set up, they engage the enormous reflex engines of the station and activate a hyperspace fold, knowing the factory wasn't designed for such a journey, hoping the entire thing holds together. It takes a lot of monitoring and a fair amount of time as they try to keep the balance of power needed to undertake this voyage, but Britai keeps a positive outlook, encouraging his worried subordinates with his confidence in them, until Exodor announces their re-entry into the Earth sector.
As you Micronians would say, we've made it. My dear colleagues, it is good to be back home.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, very good, sir.
It says a lot that Britai would refer to the Earth as home in the plural possessive use of the word, almost a declaration of his devotion to keeping the planet safe. They had succeeded in their mission to claim the factory satellite for Earth's own, and soon, the building of the Earth's future would commence as they prepared to expand the culture and influence of Earth out into the galaxy. The capture of the ROBOTECH factory finally marked the end of Volume 5. And what a volume it had been! Starting with the first date of Max and MIRIYA, leading to their wedding, which influenced the alliance of Britai's fleet with the humans, as they banded together to defeat the fleet of Dolza and his millions of ships, all with the power of music and love. The Earth had suffered a great calamity, But the people of Macross and the SDF-1 had begun to rebuild society, reaching for that brighter future and greater heights than mankind had ever reached before. It was so amazingly epic to my 8-year-old eyes, and yet it was late, and those eyes were ready to close as the VHS tape of Volume 5 reached its end. My brother and Bash would stay up all night to watch Volume 6 and finally witness the ending of the Macross saga. But I was headed straight for bed to dream of my own adventures with the SDF-1 and her crew. But you'll never guess what I did as soon as I woke up the next morning. And watching that last stretch of the saga and its ending all by myself is a whole other story to tell.